Mālama mai a mākou a whalekana, a puka I ke ao mālama lama, a puka.
Ya ha 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 you e, li a le ha you a la, e ya ha ha you e, ya ha ha he, hey ya hey yo ho, hey yo ho, ya ha ha hey.
Maybe do a round of quick introductions before we all get acquainted and jump on the va'a. My name is Wafal or Barbara Blake. Wafal translates roughly to party giver or potlatch giver is my Kara's name, and it's descended from one of my ancestors from Hawaii, which the va'a will be heading to after the Homai or Bird. I live here in Santa Kahiti. I have the privilege of working alongside an awesome team at First Alaskans Institute, and I'll be quasi-hosting you for this morning's session. I was on Lake 9 of Moananuiākea, the worldwide voyage, so I've sailed on Hokulea, and I've also gone on multiple canoe journeys on our canoes, or our canoes, and so know somewhat of what kind of questions to ask for both sides of the canoe life. So I'm glad to meet all of you, and
Aloha, Christopher James Kuakuble. I reside in the beautiful islands of Hawaii on Oahu. I'm a crew member as well as an educator at the Kamehameha schools, and I'm very honored to be here to share this space and to help out in any way that I can.
Aloha tākou, Keoni Puaha no Waimanalo no Homa, ma Maui ke Imanawa. Also crew member, though not having the privilege of being on this day, and also involved in the protocol development and support.
Aloha mai kākou, o le hua kamalu ko'i noa no Hawaii mai au. And I also am one of the crew who sail on Hokulea and support everyone in our canoe.
Shorty Gentleman, I'm from the Big Island in Hawaii. I'm been very blessed to be able to sail on Hokulea throughout the years.
John Cruzy from Kauai. Again, humbled by this gathering. I was with Shorty Bertleman in 1976 on the first cruise, on the Jurassic period.
Ikatua sa singik ay naki sa ish kaagwantan ako Yukan katati ako Filipino ay katu. Sto kahadati yawus ka na ko dia tutat. Ya tingka kanas nas kadosho pa yawutin ka kastane ya schoolman. I'm Keith. That's the name of her to go by. I can also go by Lyle. I am Kaagwantan, and I'm also Hawaiian and Filipino. On my father's side, I'm Hawaiian. On my mother's side, I'm Filipino. I've been an educator for going on 18 years in my school district, and spent most of my life since the age of 5 out on the ocean here. And know the territory from Puna here and to Cape area. Mahalo.
Sanuga Hinudi Kiang, Gianna Willard, Iskan Hinudi Kiang, Galas Gusu Di Kwalagan, Ketchikan student Ejung. My Haida name is Sanuga, which roughly translates to white cloud. It's an old Haida name. My clan is Haukiwas. We're Masset Inlet born. We're Raven, Owl, and Flicker. My English name is Gianna Willard, and I'm from Ketchikan, Alaska. I've gone on probably about 14 canoe journeys in the last 10 years, 12 years. Hoa.
First Alaskans Institute Yejikane, Kwashkakwan, Dutchkanaya, Ka'atekwedi, Abdaintan. My name is Kaslut, and I live and raise my children in Yakdot, and we brought our canoe up here. Worked for First Alaskans, and I'm the grandchild of the Kwashkakwan and the Tekwedi and Abdaintan.
Ia tuki ngā kai karakia, ko karakia mātou I te atanei. Kami ia tuki a koutou. Ka Huingo, ko Waio, ko Stanley Conrad ahau. No te taitoke rau, Aotearoa. My name's Stanley Conrad, I'm from Aotearoa. Up in the far north, which is taitoke rau. We build our waka Voyage canoe Te Aurere and Ngā Hira ka mai Tupati. So, kia ora.
So what in my own, my new mind. From Hawaii, from the island of Oahu, from you. And I've been with Hokulea for some years and had the real honor of pretty much traveling with all these gentlemen here. And it's been a wonderful journey. It's so good to be here. Thank you guys for sharing, receiving us and welcoming us and sharing.
My name, I'm from one of the Chinese islands in the Cook Islands, Hokulea. Got my own canoe Paikia. I've been sailing with these guys, learning from them. It's an honor to be here. As you can see, the weather is a shock to my sister. But we'll survive.
Sakjaye, Yakatu Sauk, Yesh Nakatsiti, Kanafadik, Ayakat, Ukitaka, Yakat, Hawakwan, Katsiti. My Tlingit name is Sakjaye. My English name is Yaravara. I'm with the Ganakodi clan. I'm Raven Moiety from Kloak, Alaska. I'm with the One People Canoe Society, one of the skippers for it, and been part of that for many, many years. Happy to be here hosting you guys and honoring, welcome all of you. We've been sponsoring canoeing events and trying to bring our Yaukdei back to life here throughout this whole region, doing paddle making workshops and getting people out on the water and doing youth camps and culture camps and trainings like that, highlighting water safety always, and just bringing a lot of culture to our waterways. Nice cheesh.
Kia ora. My name is Tua Pittman. I'm from the Cook Islands. Very, very honored to have been a part of the Polynesian Voyaging Society and the Voyages of Hokulea for a few years. I think when I started I had black hair. But it's just great to be here. It's a completely different culture, but it's the same. And that's the beauty of it all. And for me, it's being part of this canoe and to be able to come and share in this culture with you all is priceless.
I think if it's all right with everybody, maybe we transition to the va'a and just sit around and have some conversation and talk story.
Yeah.
I just picked back out of the room. So she was taking to put I want to get a It's been ages, brother. Hey, just caught up, brother. Now you're calling up. I'm a bit scared. Morning.
I won't judge. Yes.
All right. It is a big step. Yeah. So I do feel like the sit and swivel.
Sit and spin, yes.
Project.
Don't want anybody filming like you don't probably want it either.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Did a great job hosting dinner. Yeah. The best hostess. But I sit on city council. I had a city council meeting. Yeah, I couldn't get out of it. I might have to see. It's been good. You know, it's a lot of hours, but it's meaningful. Meaningful. So when they start, we're not live yet. When they start going live, we're going to ask, the first question is just, you know, what is meaningful about this experience? And not everybody has to answer. Whoever wants to just jump, they're going to have a mic for us. I think you guys going to have just that one? Okay. So it's going to be here. And they asked to point out the main speakers, so I don't know if anyone feels compelled to talk about how meaningful. Okay. Voluntold, Uncle Bruce. And then from the Alaskans, anybody feel compelled to lead us off on that question?
I can.
Yeah? Jen? Okay. So we've got these two right here for that main first opening question, and then we'll just kind of hopefully dive into more of the conversation. Okay. We're not live yet? We're live?
You're ready, yeah.
Oh, she said we weren't. Okay. So, thank you for allowing us to be on your ba'a on Hokulea, and for coming all the way to Alaska. I know that it has not been the warmest of journeys, and definitely not without its hiccups, but we're so thankful and grateful that the global launch of Moananuiākea is starting from here. But just hoping that you folks wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about what this experience means to you, and how you've been receiving all of this love that's been poured into this journey.
Well, we've anticipated coming up here for like the last 2 years, and we've tried to prepare for it. Of course, the temperature is something that, some guys did dip in the water to try and experience, all that, but don't know. I mean, you know, we've met so many. We met, you know, Barbara have sailed with us, Joey Malott has sailed with us, and others, and we're really good friends with Byron and the Malotts and the family for many, many years, decades actually. And we came up here in 1995 with Hawaii Loa to give thanks for that gift of the logs to make that beautiful canoe. And we've seen a bit of the country. But now we're at the stage in the voyaging progression where we need to make these bigger connections and these broader connections. So, you know, I mean, back in the 80s, we started making connections across the South Pacific with everyone. And, well, actually, from the first voyage in '78. And it's been really powerful. So now we need to make these broader connections. And so here we are, and it's been amazing. You know, I mean, we're just so proud of the fact that the devotion, like Shorty had said, that you all have to your culture, your ancestors, and how you're going to look after and educate the next generation as they move into them, you know, into their own. So, yeah, we're really happy to be here and to witness that and to take that home, that lesson.
What do you think, Tian?
I know for me, this is almost like a coming full circle moment. I remember when Hawaii Loa landed on the shores of Ketchikan in 1995. I was 10 years old, so it made such a huge impact on my life. I've spent the last 15 years of my life obsessing about canoeing, spending all of my free time and energy on canoe journeys and revitalizing the culture. And having the journey go back to Ketchikan, Alaska, I feel really has sparked the interest to get everybody in a canoe again. It's kind of like refreshed our memory to want to, you know, be the navigators that we know that we are.
Hello. So this experience coming to Alaska and sailing in Alaska, we know that this vessel, she's been around the world. And how do Alaska waters, how do they compare to other places that she's journeyed from your experience? Or the places that you've journeyed on other va'as or wakas?
Well, we thought New Zealand was cold, which it is. And this is a whole new definition of that, of course. But the key to it all was asking and knowing that we need your local fishermen and people, ocean-going people, to help guide us through your waters. So that's what's kept us safe. You know, and we've done that from the very first voyage. On the very first voyage going down to Tahiti, they had a gentleman, his name was Roto Williams, and that was his task, was to take Hokulea through the archipelagos and islands down in Tahiti and guide her down to Tahiti once they found landfall. So, I mean, it's just always been part and parcel of doing this safely. And we've had some really good local guides. So from here going up to Yaktat was B.J. Malott, who's a fisherman and so knowledgeable. Coming down to Huna, we had Eli Hanlon, who's a fisherman from Huna, who was so valuable. And then through those waters, going up to Haynes, we had Stuart DeWitt and James Hart, who helped us. And then coming into these waters, we had Joey Malott and Jim Zeller, who guided us down here. And then we're going to be doing that all around the Pacific. And that's part of all of that. So we're safe as long as we have that kind of knowledge and the guys to say, yep, it's a good time to go, or no, we wait.
How you guys been doing
Yeah,
here in Alaska? Yeah.
Enjoying the hospitality.
Yeah.
People of Alaska, especially people of Juneau, are very, very hospitable. I think it's in our native cultures around the world. It's like that when you have somebody visit your shores, you open up your house, you let them in, you feed them, you share with them the experience of what your culture is, and that's another one of the beauties. You know, apart from being on the canoe out on the ocean, it's actually the connection with the people and the cultures that has been so powerful. And we're so thankful that. You know, you could have stood on the beach with your spears and chased us away, but you didn't. No, you're welcoming family, and we're receiving that family friendship from you. Really, really beautiful.
Well, we have, just because I'm staring at Yarrow over here as our steersman and one of our captains. Maybe we can talk a little bit about what you're holding, and maybe over here on this side, yours is just a little bit bigger than ours.
Yeah, so this is my rudder paddle. It's made out of yellow cedar. The pattern I have on it here is the tides pattern here. It's a basketry pattern. I made it when I started skippering for our women's team, Moananuiākea. And so I thought the basketry pattern was really representative of our female arts and culture. But so this is the shoreline here and the little islands off of this shore, off of each side. And yeah, so otherwise it's pretty similar, right? It's just a little bit the same shape and just a little bit smaller for our different vessels. But of course we do have larger ones, and so they come in a little bit larger sizes too. So we're prepared to make some bigger ones if we need to. But yeah, they operate pretty much the same way, you know, just twisting and turning and pulling and using our female strength and pulling it around. So using that to steer us forward throughout our waters and throughout time and history through our hashuka.
This one too? Anybody wants to talk about
this one here?
This big lady right here.
Okay.
Sure. So this hoiuli. Hoiuli just means steering blade, steering paddle. Its name is Kawainui, in honor of Herb Kawainui Kane, who was one of the founders of the Polynesian Voyaging Society. And yeah, it just finds its balance. It was built by one of our young captains, Russell Hamimoto, and he was mentored to build this by Wally Forsyth, who was one of the builders and had a hand in designing this Va'akaulua. But it just balances in there, finds its balance, and yeah. It's you want to try it? Well, you've tried it before.
I've tried it before.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that. And then we'll put it down, and there you go.
So pretty similar in comparison. I did want to talk a little bit about protocols, if that's okay. I know that we share a lot of similarities. We have our Haras people, our Tlingit people, and our Hawaiians, our Pacific Islanders, and Keone, I know that you were a large part of the protocols for Hokulea. You were my protocols captain during my leg of the journey, and just wondering in comparison, when we're talking about protocols, how did it look when you're seeing it for the first time from our side this time around, and just wondering from you, how that looked in comparison.
Well, I think wherever we're sailing, there's a protocol of meeting, and before we even go, and I know Bruce and I know and folks reach out before we even land, make sure that we're welcome in that way, right? You don't want to show up anywhere you're not welcome. But then that point of meeting is really important for all of our cultures. That point of connecting, and for Hawaiians, it's asking permission. We have a olikahea that our crew, and more than just the crew, it seems like most of the Hawaiian delegation has learned, and it's a way of being humble in front of our hosts, stating where we're from and our intentions, and asking permission. And I think what happened on the beach the other day was sort of classic. What happens every time the canoe lands anywhere? We asked permission, and so far we're always granted it, and not just that, but tons of hospitality and aloha coming back at us. So yeah, it's very thankful for that.
Kasut, I don't know if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit more about the protocols on our side. We didn't get a chance. One of the goals was to announce what was taking place on the beach, but we didn't get that opportunity. So I don't know if you wouldn't mind talking about that a little bit more.
Sure. Just like other indigenous people around the world, we have protocols that go back thousands of years. And so it's a big honor to be able to bring our ancestors into the spaces and welcome people ashore again. There was a period of time, as we all know, where that wasn't happening. People were just coming to these shores and taking and taking and taking. And during those times, we were still learning how to welcome people ashore. Our ancestors were intelligent enough to know, and through the struggle, they still remained strong enough to share with us that at some point, again, we will be welcoming Indigenous people ashore, and our voices will be heard on this land. And you need to know what to do in those times, in those places. And I was fortunate enough to be one of those people who were able to learn those things all throughout my life and growing up. And really it's about asking who it is. Who are you folks? And having a conversation before they come on shore. And as we were planning, as you were talking about Keone coming on shore, I learned that in the warmer places of the world, you stand in the water before you come on shore. We don't do that. It's much too cold. And so the way that we do our protocols is the yak, the people on the water, they're singing before they come in, just as you folks have, to announce that you're coming in a friendly way. And that's what we do too when we're traveling. We have traveling songs that we're singing as we go. Out on the water, we're singing to the water and to our ancestors. They're with us when we travel. And it's also a way to let folks know as we're passing by their villages that we're coming in a friendly way, in a positive way. And so singing the songs of our ancestors is critical to the protocols of traveling on a yak. And as you come into a community, we come in backwards. And when you come in backwards, that's really signifying that you have intentions to leave. You're not trying to come in and take ownership of a place, so you come in backwards and disembark in that way. And singing the songs and telling the histories of the places that you've been through song. So we tell each other and we sing to each other and we uplift one another constantly to our opposites and saying, this, 5,000 years ago we came here and this is what happened, and we say it through song. And so we continue to love each other and what you folks call aloha, just the love that we have for each other throughout the protocols. Sheesh.
It's a good point, Voyagers don't always come in peace, and we know that through our history. And so we have, that's why it's important to follow the protocols, because then you know whether you're coming in peace or in war. I know in Aotearoa definitely has lots of protocols. Maybe Stan would like to share some of those as well.
Yeah, kia ora. Regarding the protocols and in the traditions in Aotearoa, we have a similar way of running our protocols and stuff. But one of the main things, this is the balance that we have with our traditions, that the wahine, the women, play a big part in some of our protocols. Especially in Māori, we have our wahine will be the first callers of visitors to the shore, and that's the first thing we do. And then through that we can gauge. Back in the days, we'd gauge whether they're coming as friends or enemy or whatever. And then after that we send. Then that's a way that we usually. That's one of them that we do with protocols. But then the other one is we have a challenge. We have guys that go out and challenge the visitors, and through that challenge they can sort of detect whether they're here as friends or foe, because usually we call them the manuhiri. The visitors will also throw a challenge out, but then through those exchanges of the challenge, they figure out whether you're here for, you know, and then there's a big welcome, we call it a pohiri, and there's a lot of chanting, and through that is also, we call it noa. It's pacifying one of your ancestors and the other one that you're coming in as a friend, and through those that formal welcome, it starts the procedures of welcoming. And we go through similar to what you guys do, but we go through a lot more. We have elders that speak, and then from the we call it tangata whenua, they will speak, and then we hand it to their visitors. And through those conversations and those, we call it mihis, they work out how the things would lay, and we call that tikanga or kawa. And every area in New Zealand has a kawa, has a different type of tradition or welcome that gauges, and through those, and then after that, what we finish after by having a hongi, the touching of the nose and sharing of the breath, and our visitors or our manuhiri become tangata whenua, and that's how we sort of the layup of our welcomes. But sometimes speeches are short, and sometimes speeches go through to the night. All depends on who speaks, has more mana or more power to speak louder and whatever. But it's just that and it's different in different ways, especially with death within our people. We have a different protocol layout of how people, when you're coming as a visitor or we're celebrating something. For our wakas, for our canoes, this is similar to how you guys do it. Yes, we do stand in the water, and it will be different here. But for us, we bring our canoes in nose first, the ihu first, and then during that time, our canoes are turned and faced out, because you guys back, and that really is the canoe for either for war or for to leave. So different protocols, but it's pretty similar. But I think the key thing for us in Aotearoa, for me as a Māori, is our genealogy, learning our whakapapa. I learned my whakapapa when I was in my mum's womb. It's just reciting, and as a baby, and when you're born, it's continuously pounded into you and then when you grow up, you got your whakapapa, you got your genealogy coming from my ancient rival of my canoe or canoes or wakas to Aotearoa. And that comes down to the area, the mountain, the river, the ocean, your meeting house, or the where you're from. And having that whakapapa, or having that genealogy in you, wherever you travel through Aotearoa, you recite it, and then you make connections. And usually the connections are done by the ancient waka you announce. So if you come from a waka that's come, and that waka's left that part of the shore and gone down, the connection, and then that's where you make those connections. And for us as Māori, the waka is important, with the likes of your whakapapa, and then the language, the reo, is really strong. And through those two, that you keep that bond between who the present, and also back to the honouring the ancestors and to the future. So learning their culture is important to us.
For us, similarly, we would have different protocols, in each different village throughout the region. We're all Tlingit people, but each different clan and tribe would have their own, and then we also have our neighboring Haida and Tsimshian peoples who have similar coastal traditions as well, but different, right? Same but different. But like she was saying, it's not always welcoming and positive, and you guys may not have known it, but right across the way here, I don't think we can see it too closely from here, but there's right off of Indian Point, right off across the water there is some archaeological sites that they found where there are canoe runs up along the side of right on the inside of that point where the warriors would wait, right? And so when they're on the beach doing that welcome, if those people aren't receiving the welcome in aloha spirit, right, then those warriors come out and they intervene in a very different manner, and so the reason that site is on the National Register of Historic Places is because of an ancient conflict that had happened there So it's really important to us to maintain those peaceful relations as well between clans and between communities and between tribes and across the waters to our whole nation. So this is so important for that, to really bring back some of those peaceful connections and sharing our waters and paying attention to some of those old historic sites that really bring back those memories of the rocks remember our ways, for sure. Sheesh.
Yeah, it's important that the one is your iwi. Within your iwi, you have your hapu, you have your sub-tribes, and then within the sub-tribes, you have rohe. It's the land with the sub-tribe and where the iwi fits. So similar layup, setup is what you guys do. You know, it's very, and that's important. You know, that is always maintained. Mm-hmm. And then you get that harmony between tribes, between iwi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we tried to speak for our Haida neighbors, there would be big conflict there. So I'll let Gianna stay on her own with what their traditions may be.
Yeah.
Two Haidas.
Go ahead. No, you mean?
Oh. Yeah. See, so I'm Haras as well, and you know, my first canoe journey was on the canoe coming up from Haida Gwaii all the way to here for celebration in '98. And I was young. We won't say how young, but I was young at that time, and it was my first experience on one of our traditional canoes and getting that opportunity to be alongside our folks and learning very quickly to back in for protocols, because we stopped in all the communities, just similar how Hokulea is doing, and stopping in those communities and knowing that if you're backing in, you're coming in for peace, because right, your back is to the folks that you're coming in to see. And when your back is to them, you're obviously not coming in to harm them. But listening to those young men and women from Haida Gwaii, and thinking about these routes that our ancestors had traveled, and this was just the baby step into reviving, reawakening something that had been lost for a very, very long time. And Gianna and I were actually having this conversation last night about what it means to kind of recapture all of those protocols, to reawaken them within our community, and giving our elders that opportunity to have those sparks. And so maybe Hitli Ish, I know that your father has a lot of knowledge and has shared a lot with you on these things, and the opportunity to get back into a canoe has been something that I think our elders who have that knowledge, but it's just kind of asleep within them, have that opportunity to kind of remember those things. I don't know if you wouldn't mind talking about all the things that you've been learning.
So this is Yaduhuach Ish Sanak Yutu Sa Kik Sadik Sati. Do Achaway Yukwan Yadia Yakat Yakuklau Haku Sti Ach Ish Do Edach. This is my father. His Kingit name is Sanak. He also has Kakach, he's Kiksadi, and he was also brought in by the Kajadi as well. But he's also the reason why I'm Hawaiian. He's taught me, when we're traveling from community to community, what protocols we need to follow in order for us to come to shore. And one of those things that we used to remember his father, my grandfather, used to talk about, was at each point of our village on either side there were watchmen. They were making sure that those that were in the village, that if they were coming in, there were canoes coming in, they had box drums, and they would sit there and pound on that box drum, and it was slow if they were coming in as friends. But if they were coming in fast, they would beat on that box drum as loud as they can and beat it fast. And that would warn everybody to start getting ready. And these are things that my father has shared with me. I'm going to actually invite my father to talk about this here.
The box drum, when they're hitting it, the first few times they hit the drum, they're letting the folks know in the community how many canoes are coming in. 10, 12 times, 12 times, then the people in the community know how many canoes coming in, and the first canoe hit the drum, and how many in each canoe. $10, $20 or more. Next canoe hit it twice. Pause for a second, then start hitting the drum again. When they start hitting the drum, after they get through, they find out how many next canoe coming in, and so on and so on. So they know how many warriors are coming in before, way ahead of time. When they get close to where the box drummers are at, they stop after they go by. Then they hit a warning. They pass. They already quite a ways ahead, past where they're at. So I used to hear this from my grandfather, Adam James, and my father, Kelly James. They talk about it, share with me. They want me to pass it on, so I pass it on to my son and my girls, so they know. I'm going to stop there.
The other things that we were taught is that when those that are standing on the shore, the only ones that would really speak are the Hitsati of each clan, and that's out of protocol so that when our guests are coming in, they're not sitting on the shoreline forever. There'd be one specific speaker who would address them, and that way that house member can say whether or not you can come to shore. Some of the things that I remember growing up is that if you are honored guests, they would actually not let you step into our water. They would actually grab the whole yacht and pick the canoe up with everybody inside of it and carry you up to shore. That way your feet wouldn't get wet. You would come in dry and ready to exchange with us. And that's some things that I remember growing up.
I think when we were in Aotearoa, we heard similar stories of watchmen. We call them watchmen, being ready and witnessing if someone was coming in to warn the village that someone was coming.
Similar, yeah. A similar setup. And also having those warriors that are on lookout is it just gauges the way the visitors are, how they move through. Yeah, they watch who scatters. If you see a scattering from the visitor, you know that they're not there for friendliness. They're there to eat. A lot of things back in the days of my ancestors was we had this word called utu. And utu is when something happens within a neighbouring tribe or another iwi, where one iwi comes over and done something that wasn't good, like capturing, taking them in, and the other, and then through that the other rolling tribe or whatever had happened to them will go, and there's a price to pay. And usually it's that. And the other thing I usually do is we call it you marry or you take the tribe and you marry into the tribe, or you take that tribe within your tribe, and you can't do anything about it because it's been set up to happen that way. And a lot of our ancestors do that. Back in the days was to we call it tono. Tono is where you arrange it to happen. And that's those sort of practices were done back in those days. But these days now, we go through the normal. You meet your partner. But back in the days of my people we were always tunneling for the connection of iwi. It's the bloodlines. You keep the pure bloodline running through there. A good example is Tua's part from a tribe of Tainui, from his ancestry. Māori tribe through Tainui, which is one of our big iwi in Aotearoa. And similar, lots of iwi and lots of hapu within them. They interconnect to different protocols and different practices they do to keep that line running through that generation and stuff. So it's really important. That's why it comes back to whakapapa, comes back to genealogy, so important. Like you think, all our people, our ancestors never had written or oral. And it comes down through whakairo, which is drawings, carvings, chants, haka, waiata, and then through those reciting of orators back in we have amazing orators that will recite the areas on through those reciting of those areas and that whakapapa and that genealogy allows it to keep that strong in the connection, and then also helps with the way when people move through that part of the island, and that you have that. And the same thing, you gotta have those in place to either you come to war or you come as free. So yeah, it's important. Yeah.
Genealogy in our cultures, whakapapa is really important too, and the oratory is no written language for us either. But those stories and those ties of kinship are all embedded in our introductions, and important to bring our ancestors into the room in every moment of showing respect to each other, to recite our whakapapa, our genealogy before we speak. And I don't know if any of the Alaskans want to talk about that a little more.
When we talk, we don't talk about ourselves. We talk about who we're related to, and in the sense of our opposites. So for myself, I'm Kagwantan, Eagle Wolf from Kokunu'u, Grouse Fort outside of Huna area. My father, who is Kiksadi, Raven Frog, he comes from the Shkatquan or Wrangell territory. His genealogy, that's where my family comes from. So when I'm speaking, I'm not going to address the other eagles in the territory. I'm going to acknowledge my in-laws, the Kana Khadi. My in-laws, the Dekina Haida. That's how important it is. Also, my wife, I would acknowledge her, which I forgot to do earlier. My wife, she is Kana Khadi, which is the same as her, which is why she's my in-law. She's my sister-in-law. And my wife, she's also Haida. So I have to acknowledge the Haida people as well, because they're my in-laws. And I also acknowledge the Simsian, which my wife is as well. She's Kanhada from Metlakatla. That connection is to make sure that we acknowledge and don't forget them. And then I acknowledge my father's who's also Hawaiian, so I would have to acknowledge those that are Hawaiian in the crowd. And that genealogy will continue on until I make sure that I don't forget anybody.
But more importantly than even just those connections, though, along with that social structure comes the right to travel through the waters, the right to come and gather resources on your in-laws area, right? And say, hey, I'm coming here to gather fish for my wife from your Ganakadi country or something like that, to that effect, right? And so when you would come in, you would say, hey, I am related to your people through these ways, and you would establish those social connections, and it creates that that sense of balance, right? And in the gifting and exchanges, it really establishes those social debts in a way, you know, as you repay them and you continue that balance, and every gift is then counterbalanced, and every speech is balanced, and every song is balanced between clans and between neighboring relations in that way as well. So yeah, that's it's not just about stating who they are, but it's about knowing the permissions and what areas are included in your areas there. So that's one of the reasons why they're so important, that those stories bring in every the names of the mountains around us and the bays and you know a specific event that happened in this spot is named for that purpose, and it's about remembering them and bringing them into the community and feeding their spirit and bringing them back into our communities as well. So Chief for bringing that up.
One of the, I think talking about protocols, getting everybody excited,
Yeah.
because these are a lot of the things that are some of the most important things about who we are as Tlingit people. And what Ish was talking about, we uplift our opposites, and so it really matters what we wear. So we wear our a'u, we wear the things of who we are. And it's really critical that we raise our kids to know the family ties, the genealogy, so that when they're looking at somebody, everybody that we look at, the way that we treat them is because we know already who they are when they get there. So we're not doing these introductions to say who we are. Unless you're going on somebody's land and it's a grandchild, they need to know who they are and their opposites, so they can recite their opposites' history and say, I know who you are. And I'm respecting you in the way because I understand who you are and where you come from. I know the histories and I appreciate you and I love you and I'm here in kindness and love. So it's really critical for us to be able to share that ancestry and the genealogy with our grandkids and with our kids and everybody around us. And so when I'm talking to my kids, I always ask them, like, who are the people that you know who are Tequay-D? Mm-hmm. Tell me, all the people who you know that are Tequay-D. And we list them off. We list off all the people. And I say, when you would come ashore, what is it that you would do? How would you approach it in this situation? And the importance of that. And the Maori having hours and hours of dialogue to have conversations, that's for us too. I think that is something that connects us in the way that we communicate with each other with love and respect, and sometimes that takes time. And there's no skipping any step. We take the time to let everybody communicate. We take the time to wait until everybody's finished. Nobody's talking over each other or trying to a sense of urgency. We're taking the time to deeply listen to each other and give honor to the time that is given, to that moment, because we're bringing our ancestors in and we're bringing out our a'u. It's really critical that we honor those moments. And so that all comes down to the way that we raise our babies, which in some way has been in repair for some years. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity that the Hokulea is coming here, because it's able to give us a moment to think and say, where are we right now? Where are we in the ways that, did we prepare our kids and grandkids to know what's going on, and where are we moving into the future? And how can we strengthen so that the next time the Hokulea comes here, you'll be greeted by your kids and grandkids and they'll know what to do.
Yeah.
Another thing that we want to make sure that when we do sing, especially if we sing songs, we want to sing because we want to sing, we know what child they are of. So for instance, my father, who was Siknachadi or Nanya Ayati, I am Kiksadiati. So we're trying to sing whatever songs we bring forward. We want to sing because we're connected to that individual, we're connected to the clans of that territory. So we try to sing to uplift them. And those are other things. It's what we also call Atukukedi. We bring our special speeches forward and to uplift them for that journey that they've taken.
Speaking of one of the questions we're getting from the hall right now is related to what we're talking about, and I've heard it described that Hokulea and reawakening the practice of navigating brought us to a place where kind of a Hawaiian renaissance, a reawakening of all things traditional Kanaka Maori. And when we are thinking about that on our side, folks are wondering in the hall what that means for passage of knowledge from our current generation or our elders' generation to the children, and how that looked in terms of maybe from your side, from the Va'a, the Waka side, and then we can talk about it from our side as well.
So good for Shorty.
Shorty?
Well, what's the question? I'm sorry.
So the passage of knowledge from one generation to another, the reawakening of navigating and what that looks like to pass that knowledge on.
Yeah, we came a long ways from where we started. We're pretty much lost in all of these very important protocols and everything. So throughout the voyaging, we've come a long way with that, and so the importance of passing it down the proper way. So you're really enlightening us. Our journey here. So thank you very much. Because we're actually still, in my experience, we're still learning. And there's much more to learn. But the importance of passing it down is epic for people like our age. It's more important to, they were saying about the young ones, about the ones that's not even born, starts in the womb. That being introduced there and to be able to pass it on properly, that is where that's our journey, to make sure that it gets done properly. Thank you.
How did that go for you folks, Shorty? To reawaken that knowledge, to learn the traditions of navigation, because right, you're not all from the same part of the Pacific, and so having to translate that over to where you folks are from.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
The long journey.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out how we can also take that knowledge and reawaken it here with our traditional navigation processes. And I know that's been a long process for all of you folks, and it takes years and years and decades even to be a proper navigator. Yeah.
I think for us, she's the main one that woke everything up. When she came down, and prior to that, as we all said, it's the same thing. There's nothing written. Everything was oral, and all those traditions were kept in our songs and the cultures, the stories. And then we get into this stage of praising ourselves that we are good sailors, but not actually doing it. You know, because we kind of believe that's actually normal until Hokulea came and woke us up. And you know, it was a big thing for us. Then it becomes a responsibility. Then it becomes a Hokulea. And that's why we're here. Really honored to be here. I'm privileged. So she's the one. She's the one that woke everything up. And now it's starting to get stronger and stronger. Then like I say, it becomes a Hokulea that we have to pass it on to our kids. And we're going to hold that to our graves and to make sure that will never disappear again.
Hokulea helped us believe again. We hear the stories, we hear the songs about all our great voyages, but that's it. We never saw it until the day this canoe sailed from Hawaii to Tahiti and then sailed on through the island. And that was that reawakening that brought us back to life. We're very, very fortunate that people like Bruce, Shorty, and John, and Billy Richards, and Mainoa, and the founders of the Polynesian Voyaging Society took that step back bring us forward. And now we're connecting with you as well. Hopefully she will bring you back to life as well with that knowledge. And, that's why she has to keep sailing. That's why she's, in 2 years' time, she's going to be 50. And she's still going, and she's still, I mean, they use this saying a lot, but she's still weaving a lay of islands, cultures, countries, languages, traditions together, and keeping them alive, restoking the fire. Beautiful.
For us, you know, and like to he said, Hokulea has been our connection. When you think about, we arrived in Aotearoa as Polynesians. Māori pure was created in Aotearoa, but we were Polynesians. So when our ancestral wakas arrived in Aotearoa, we never lost the art of voyaging or waka. We just never used it again. And so it got put into, like I said, karakia's chant. It was always there, but we never used it. And then 500-600 years later, you know, Hokulea twins, and having that opportunity to sail back in '85 from Rarotonga to Aotearoa on Hoku, and that, like Tua said, having these, you know, this guy here, Bruce, and Shorty, my captain, and Leon Sterling, and Billy, and all those guys. Yeah, and I was very young, and then going back and voyaging, yeah, it built, like Tua said, the lay, and it started our voyaging. And through that, I remember when we arrived in Aotearoa in Waitangi, and one of my elders, his name was Sir James Enari, he sat me. He stood proud when he met to Hokulea and us when we arrived. And he said, I'll laugh and I'll cry and I'll laugh and I'll cry for the critics who said that it could never be done. And you have proven it. You know? Because it was two theories. We were accidental sailors. We arrived on the shore as driftwood. There's a very important painting that I always look at, painted by a renowned artist by Goldie. Shows us depicts our ancestors arriving on a canoe that was beaten by the storm and by the sea and by the wind. And I thought, wow, is this us? Is this how we arrived here in Aotearoa? But now, you know, but Oku is, it's the mother of our renaissance of voyaging. And through that, we built voyaging canoes. And our own voyaging canoes in Aotearoa, you know, builded and all of the same. So that's how important this waka is, and this is what it's done for us. Yeah, this is what it's done. We're proud.
And canoes are popping up all over the place now. It's beautiful.
It's one really important thing about what Hokulea has done is every day somewhere on this island Earth there's a voyaging canoe sailing somewhere where we didn't have that before. But now she's allowed us to believe canoes are being built, and then there's a voyage happening somewhere in the Pacific every day, whether it just be going from 100 miles or 1,000 miles. But that's the power of that reawakening. In the past, people would go out and look at the ocean and go, wow, did we really do that? To a point now, they say, okay, let's go.
Our ancestors weren't afraid. We weren't afraid of the ocean. It was our world, and the ocean and the pathways our ancient canoes sailed. And travel was like, you know, just like driving down the road. It was the ocean. Never afraid. Respect, but never afraid. Because that's who we were. That's how we moved through the Pacific. You know, that's the proudest thing about what we do. You know, the things we do, and we voyage and we teach. It's just honouring those ancestors of ours, the ones who looked out on the horizon, saw the migrating birds, saw the migrating whales, and said, "There's land further than this." Because why? These birds don't land on the ocean. They must come from land. And, you know, our people were amazing people that they could do that, traverse those oceans without the fear, but the respect of the ocean. And that, yeah, and the canoe, the waka, has done it, you know. And that connects. That to me. That's my identity. That's who I am, because I can connect myself back to my ancestral canoe, and we all can. We all can. And when you talk about back to again, what I talk about, whakapapa, the genealogy, how it connects us back to our ancient past. That's the thing that's important. And hoku, you know, our young sail on this, and this is, yeah.
Gianna, I know that you've been on how many canoe journeys, and that you've probably had multiple conversations about what it looks like, and at least starting the conversation of what it means to reawaken something similar within our peoples.
Well, definitely. I know I come from a canoe people because my body is built in a way that I was made for a canoe. I have a very long torso, really wide shoulders, and my legs are very short. I hide it with a skirt, but like when I buy pants, I have to buy the short size because the regular size doesn't fit me. I know when I first was starting my canoe journeys, it was a time in my life where I really needed to grasp onto something because I was letting go of so many things. I was finding my sobriety, and through that I needed like an anchor point. And through finding canoeing, I also found like my worth. I found a place where I was the most valuable, that the people around me, you know, we all kind of like, when you're in a canoe, like you kind of just join together, like you suffer together, you joy together, you eat together. Like by the end of the journey, like you are working together as one. And I found that like that was where I felt most valuable. I know like sometimes I would tell people in my community, like, this is what I do and this is where I go, and I'm gonna go on a canoe journey, and people just think I'm crazy. Like, why would I take time out of my life to go do something that I'm not getting paid for, that's gonna take a lot of work, a lot of commitment, a lot of money, because those things aren't like, the gear's not free, the safety boat's not free, the plane tickets down to where the canoes are at aren't free. Like, it takes a lot of resources. But like, how do you explain to somebody, like, that is where my personal value comes from, like, and then trying to spark that in other people, like get the community going. Like in Ketchikan, like summertimes are so busy, and summertimes are like when the tourists come, the salmon come, all of the gathering and everything happens in summertime. So to take valuable time out of that and to commit it to something, sorry, that's super loud behind me.
Okay, to pause for a minute. We're gonna pause for a minute.
Unveiling the view behind us.
There you go.
I needed a better setting.
Or
They can afford it.
yeah, they can afford it. Yeah.
I don't know what's happening.
We're all judging you right now. Some lobster.
The boys are coming like
Oh man.
we could have been cute whole time.
Okay.
They all look like
I think it's Caribbean. I think it's a Caribbean flag. Yeah. Okay, looks like they're done with the bow thrusters. Not quite as loud.
Working on building a 30-foot
Nice.
You can hold on for just a moment.
When we're ready, I'll just jump in and talk about my children.
Okay.
That's where I was going with it. I just know where it was.
The boat is about to cross in our signal to our Wi-Fi for this.
Oh.
So I might be good to go. Should just be a second.
I didn't realize how much that boat was blocking the wind.
I'm ready.
Behind us.
When you guys.
Okay.
You want to introduce?
Yeah. I know that Gianna, you were getting ready to talk about your kids, and sorry for the pause, folks. The bow thruster was pretty loud. But go ahead.
So I have 3 children. Right now they're 12 years old and 9 years old. The twins are Mallory and Javen, and the youngest is Kevin. I remember when I first took them on canoe journeys with us, it was such an amazing, incredible experience for them that when we were done and we were on our way back home, we were just in the grocery store. My son Javen came up to me and he was like, you know, it's like I'm an undercover hider right now. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, none of these people know that I'm a hider. Like, I look like I'm a normal person. And I always just remember that because like that's how empowering going on canoe journeys is, like finding who you are and where you come from and finding value like in that, like strength in that. But my kids, I'm getting them super obsessed with canoeing too. They fight over who gets to pack in the groceries or the luggage because they need like canoe muscles when they like they work really hard. Like they'll pick up the milk like 5 times before they put it in the fridge just because they need their canoe muscles. They're getting to that point where I'm gonna be able to start inviting them on canoe journeys with me. They're gonna be able to, you know, help me journeys, pack gear, all kinds of fun stuff. I know they come across a lot of opposition when they go through schools and stuff because a lot of people don't understand the culture and they have really long hair. But they say like, Mom, I get teased about having long hair and everybody has short hair. And I just hold it in. I feel kind of bad for them because their moms don't let them have long hair like me. And you know, it's really sweet, like having the culture be reawakened through them as well. Like it empowers me, like just seeing them grow up to be a little strong, having the strength that I wish I had when I was younger. So pretty excited about that.
I know that you've been an educator for many years, and I know that you bring our youth out on the Yalks pretty frequently. You guys started having those conversations about what it looks like to reawaken all things Yalk.
I just started recently working with Gold Belt Heritage Foundation on their dugout canoes, and this last one that we used when you folks came in, we used nickel and carved for Gold Belt Heritage Foundation, which is an organization that I work with, and we work with youth to start training them to prepare to be out on the waters as often as we can. And we've worked with them to understand water safety and what it's like to be out on the water in rough waters. If they get tipped over, they know what to do when it tips over, how to turn the canoe back over in these types of waters so that they can get to shore safely. This is exciting for me because the last time in our family anybody's ever been in a dugout canoe was back in 1942, which was my grandfather, my father's father, when they brought the Chief Shake's canoe up from Seattle. They paddled that from Washington all the way up to Wrangell. So these journeys have been part of our history for generations, and it's something that these students are starting to get excited about because what they're doing is they're learning how to make their own paddle. And when they understand the importance of the paddle and how it helps us pull forward together, that strength gives them the energy to understand the importance of how meticulous the canoes need to be. We're getting ready to work with master canoe maker Wayne Price. Uncle Wayne's going to be helping us with a 30-foot canoe with our high school students this coming school year. And they're going to learn that process from beginning to end starting this fall. So thanks to Gold Belt Heritage Foundation and Sea Alaska and Wayne for being the master carver, mentoring me to help make the canoe for the Juneau Douglas High School.
Sheesh. We've got, since you talked about paddles, Leish, you know, our differences in how we make the canoes go is pretty different. Maybe we can talk about the sails, and we can talk about how we do in our canoes. I know that the practice of
sailing is being reawakened by Wayne, by Holly Churchill and others, but we're not quite there yet. I know that there's been some runs by Wayne, but for right now, maybe Yarrow, if you want to talk about how we get around now.
Yeah. So these are one of the types of paddles that One People Canoe Society has been making, and again with the support of Sealaska, the Ha'ani program, they do donate boards. We've been, like I said earlier, we've been trying to promote canoe usage and building teams in each community, and so we go around and do different paddle making workshops, and some of them have a specific style that they want to do, and some of them don't really know what they'd like, but this is one that we've designed, and it's designed sort of like a bow to flex. It's got a flat side on one and a more arched side on the other, and so if you press on it one side, it flexes a little bit, and so it pulls water. They're really light. You really want to balance it and design them for each specific paddler, right, to fit your body and your arm and your strength, so that if you're holding the paddle and exerting effort while you're just sitting still, then you're not putting that effort into paddling. And so we're trying to use, as much technology of the science of moving forward as much as we can to utilize the resources that we have, and design those in a way that will allow us to paddle farther, faster, and as much efficiency as we can. But some are obviously different. These are red cedar, and it takes a specific grain of the boards that we like to use, and bringing those to different communities really helps to empower them. We were able to borrow some canoes from one of the tour companies that wasn't using them at the time, and bringing them to different communities that wanted to participate but didn't have the resources, and so we were able to bring them a canoe. We were able to help get them the paddles and bring their teams and help train them in the water safety, like you said, and then escorting them along the journey and showing them some of our routes. So bringing them in from that's how we got Yakutat started even. We brought them down and got them a canoe and paddled with our teams from Huna and brought it over, and they've been building up, and now they have a canoe of their own, and they're out traveling the world. It's just so cool to see you guys doing some amazing stuff. But so that's one style of paddle that we use, and it really depends on the size of the canoe and the size of the paddler. If it's got tall gunnels, then you need a longer paddle. It depends on what seat you're at in the canoe, of how wide or how long you want your paddle to be. But you were saying that we're not quite there yet, but we have sails too. We've been using them. We've had them for a couple of years, and we've got some new ones out that we'll hopefully get to show you guys soon.
I think what's exciting is that each community that you go to, you'll find the different styles of paddles that each community has, and it's a signature for probably the master carver of that community to design specific paddles for that community, so that when you do come into their communities, when they raise those paddles up, they know which village is coming in. And you can also see by the designs on the canoes which clan is actually coming in. So like yesterday, on their canoe, you saw the eagle and the raven. It would be similar for all the other canoes too. You could tell which community that came from. Wayne's canoes were the North Tide canoes, and that we're following suit with him so that we can all together we can see which community we come from, but also who we work with, and showing that collaboration between each community so that we can stand united.
We've got some pretty cool sails on Hoku, and I don't know if anybody, you want anyone to talk about what that looks like going out.
Well, the sail shape on this, what we call a crab claw shape, and a boom comes like out a nice curve. It's just kind of a classic design. It was really taken from probably the most recent ancient art and paintings was from Captain Cook's artists when they came into Hawaii. And we did not have these big Hokulea voyaging canoes at the time, but they did have double hull canoes that could carry more people. They could go inter-island, and they had sails, and the design was kind of in that shape. There was also petroglyphs that they took the first sail shapes out of on the ground in Kona, on the big island of Hawaii. So there was like a large sail petroglyph. And I'm going to let Shorty talk about that because Shorty was there at the beginning when they were doing all of that.
Yeah. Because if there's no written history in our past, it's important to tell the stories. It's important for the information to be transferred through voice and song. So when the founders of Hokulea was looking for what the sail looked like, I know that they came to Hokulea, where there's an area there where there's a bunch of petroglyphs. So petroglyphs are carvings in the lava rock, yeah. And so they found out through testing. It's been a while. It has a lot of age, and so they use one of those petroglyphs to get the basic shape of that for so today we have halal there, star compass there, to celebrate that those petroglyphs.
Shorty, did you guys, when you were first starting, did you make them out of canvas or did you ever have a woven one made?
There were some original sails that were made out of lahala, and then we kept them in the hulls until we got to Tahiti, and we brought them out just for ceremony or whatever. But our working sails were actually canvas to go on the first voyage. And we still do that today. Working sails are always like just sails that we can get, but ceremonial sails are very important too. It's not used for wear and tear. Yeah, it's used for celebration and to mark, to stand out in history for what that's made for and how it's made, and to appreciate the strength of how these things are made. With all the natural fiber from the trees and stuff. That's really important. I kind of like to bring out our master. Because before this time, we never really had the knowledge of how everything was actually done in the past. So he was there. He brought most of the information down through, like you do, for thousands of years, hundreds of years, whatever, and brought that information down to where the practice was still alive and well. It's just amazing for our time that practice was still alive and well in Polynesia. And it's like, oh my God, what a blessing it was. And so, along with Bruce and everybody here, we're able to learn from him as to what the journey was for the genealogy of the canoes. We have our genealogy. They have their respect for different canoes that they know, like are down the line, or like they will encounter in their travels. So if they show up and they see the canoe from Saro, they say, oh, that's a Saro. And same with some other canoe from neighboring islands. They all had their signatures. So So getting back to the sail, that was really important. That it showed that it was a curved boom. And when we got started, Bruce, you remember when we got started, it was hard for us to plane it out to where it could be functional. It was kind of like a curved boom, but it took a lot of training and learning how to do it properly. So.
That's ancient technology.
We got to know our master pretty well, and if he was here, if we were to ask him questions, he would just come right out and say. But if you never asked him a question, he would be quiet. He would get lost into this. But if you came out with a question, and he'll address your question. So that's how we learn. You know. We're a very quiet man, but when you asked him a question, he was ready to bring it out, bring the past into the room. So to him, we are like traditional people, and we understand that we have to interact and make sure we announce who we are, so that we know like exactly what everything's going on here, like how we communicate. Is important for us to know who we are, where we come from, and we can share how we do our protocols. But mostly important to him is that it's important to have a canoe. It's important to have a vessel, because the vessel is a vehicle for many reasons. Not only to sail. It is to all the protocols. It's to make connections. Throughout the culture, but also make connections with the ocean, the sky, and the heavens. Without a vehicle, it wasn't really complete until the vehicle, because the vehicle also provided paths into the spirit world, the celestial world, our islands, like our land and our sea. And in our sea is not only the sea that's above the water, but everything beneath, the connection. So the connection was throughout. And it's because that's how important the vehicle, the canoe, was to take part in that cycle. So anyway.
Yeah. I think it's similar. I've heard our folks who have gone on longer journeys talk about the similar connection. You can really feel your ancestors around you, especially when you're out deep in the ocean. And I know that Kasuda's talked about this a lot in your journeys of what that feels like when you're out there and you've been paddling for days. And I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing some of that.
Sure. I think most anybody who's been on a journey before feels that longing for disconnection and from whatever is colonization. I'm not really sure how to describe it, and reconnection with your ancestors. And it's hard to describe what that feels like until you actually do it yourself, because when you're out on the water, you're with a group of people, but you're having your own experience. No two people are having the same experience. You're living a different life, and your ancestors are guiding you in different ways. You're at different points in your life to receive guidance and information from your ancestors. And so when you you make intention to go out and be with the ocean, the ocean greets you in different ways, and the animals and the birds that are around you give you different signals and messages, and it can be very emotional. It's really emotional to be able to feel your ancestors, and they show up sometimes visually in the back of your mind. Sometimes they show up, you can hear their sound. Sometimes they'll give you a message of a thought, of maybe a struggle that you've been going through, and suddenly you just know it's okay because you have the message of it. I remember one of the journeys that I was on, I had gone on after deep, great loss, and after that deep loss, I buried myself in work so heavily, and I just felt so unsure about left or right, forward or backwards, and somehow just planned this journey for our community. And while I was on there, I remember for hours I was weeping. I was fully weeping. I wasn't communicating about it, but tears were flying back, and we had been paddling for days, and so after you paddle for days and days, the crew, the people who you're with, get stronger, and they learn how to paddle together better, and so you get faster and faster, and your canoe starts to operate with more and more precision. And so we were just really in sync going, and it was silent, you know, it was the sound of the earth was the only thing that I was hearing. And I remember this message that I decided that I'm no longer going to put myself last anymore. That was the message that I needed to hear, because as Indigenous people, we're taught to put your community first. We're taught to put our family first and our community first, but it doesn't mean that we put ourselves last. And I think that's something that we all need to learn at different ways and different places in our lives, and that was the message that I was receiving at that point, because I just buried myself in grief and work and just being completely surrounded by everybody. And it seems like some people say middle of nowhere. That's the central place of everything, because it is more deeply who you are than it could be in a crowded room full of people surrounded by concrete and walls. And those are the places that you deeply find yourself. It's the places that you have struggle, and you're able to work together through that. You're trying to figure out, you know, and the struggle is usually internal. It's buried deep down that you didn't give yourself a chance and opportunity to see until you're in the middle of that. And that is all that it exists, is yourself and the people around you. And so the spiritual aspect of our journeys really links us most deeply to who we are and our ancestors. And those are the reasons I really enjoy being on the water. Those are the reasons that I go back. That's the place that I want to raise my kids to know who they are from the time they were born. I had one of our dancers, there was a comment that was made earlier about when our babies are born. One of our dancers in Yakutat asked me, "Auntie, when did you learn the songs? When did I learn the songs? When did we learn the songs?" You know, we were about to get ready to dance, and I said, "You didn't learn the songs, babe. You were born. You were just born. You've always known the songs." And sometimes I feel like we don't know how to access that sacred and ancient knowledge, but I would encourage, if you have an opportunity, that you could go on these journeys in some way, and you earn yourself a spot on a crew, and you find that you're ready for it, because it'll come to you when you're ready, that you might have an opportunity to find yourself.
If it's okay with everybody, I vote we go sit on that side.
On the side?
Just, we've got a little bit longer, so
Okay.
Be a little more comfy. Is that okay? Where do I sit down?
We all cry. We don't want to go.
Each and every journey.
Kasi, hadu.
I wanted to share something
Yeah,
with you.
please.
When I was growing up in Cape, my father wouldn't let me on the boat until I learned how to swim. And when I learned how to swim, I had to sit in the water year round, even in December and so on and so on. I'd ask my father, why can't I go play with my friends? He says, you gotta sit in the water for about 5 or 10 minutes first every day. As soon as you get out to sit in for 5 or 10 minutes, you can go play. So I asked him why. He said, you're always going out on a skiff all the time. If anything happens to you, or anything happens to your boat and it sinks, I know I'll find you alive. That's what he shared with me.
Chief for sharing that. Yeah, goodness chief. It's a big part of preparation also. Preparing our bodies, preparing our souls, our spirits, preparing with supplies, finances. Yeah. There's a lot of preparation. I think it's pretty similar on both sides for what that looks like, but that is one of the questions that came through is, what does that look like? What all goes into the preparation? I love you that you started off. It's like you knew what question we were going to ask.
Definitely the mental and physical training is pretty important and key to making sure that all the crew members are safe and understands what goes into traveling in our waters here in Southeast, and actually different territories within Southeast, because not all waters in Southeast are exactly the same. For instance, we have the glacier that's just right around the corner, or even off that the glacier there, the waters are going to be even colder than some territories. And for us to prepare, we have to do it year round, like my father was saying. Sometimes we've taken some students out in the middle of February, and it being 2 degrees out, and that's just on a calm day. And some days you'll take them out and it's blowing 30 miles an hour outside, and you have to go dip because you never know if you're going to get caught in a storm. And that storm you have to survive as long as you can in the water. So that water safety training, that dipping year round, is pretty important. And understanding what gear we have, much like you folks, our Hawaiian relatives, making sure that all the gear that we have, our crew members need to understand the importance of all the gear that we carry. So.
For you folks, it's and the same for us. Every little ounce matters in terms of the weight that you're putting onto your canoe. And I know that consideration takes a lot of planning. As Anthony said the other day, a lot of spreadsheets. And I know that it takes more than just, 16 crew members to put something like that together. How does preparation look for you folks?
Preparation, it's just a whole community. It's a really wonderful time. I mean, you have the group taking care of the va'a, and looking after every little thing, and then you have the people, and then it's just broken down into someone's looking after the water, someone's taking care of the food, someone's taking care of the safety equipment, a group is taking care of all the equipment that goes on the vessel, and it's just kind of broken down into all these areas with all their spreadsheets and all their checklists, which is vital. And then eventually there's like the final captain's pre-departure checklist that they go through to make sure everything's in line. And and then it just kind of keeps going like that. And then at some point in time, it's just, once the captain goes through that, and then now it's a matter of looking at the weather and stuff. But it's a real community effort, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. And the other one is your father, your family. Because for us, we set sail, we go out to sea. You're going to commit yourself to the ocean. But you're going to make sure everything is all good, all safe. Your family understands, and like Bruce said, it's a back in the days, there's the whole island, the whole village will be part of the voyage, or getting the canoe ready and stuff. And if you don't settle, or you don't make your family feel good when you go to sea, you don't want to take that thought in your mind when you go out to the ocean, because your focus is the ocean. You don't do your job sailing the canoe and navigating the canoe and captaining the canoe and that. So you don't want to have things that's going to affect you when you're out on the ocean, but you know that your family is there, is safe, they're supportive, and they know that you're okay. Another part for us is like finding that balance, like you talk about the mental, the physical. The other side is the spiritual side, yeah? Having those balance, those three things in harmony is good, because then you know that you got that wairua side, we call it, spiritual side. And that's what we do, having our karakias, our prayers in the morning on the canoe, and when we sail, and having that prayer in the evening, because it's 10 or 11 of you on the canoe, and knowing that that's done, and those prayers and that spiritual side that's that connection, and that for us, you can't explain it. You know that your family knows that you're doing that on the ocean. Yeah, and this just makes things good when you're out there, and that's important. Yeah, making sure you find the balance between those three things. Yeah, makes the voyage go really good. Yeah, but like it is, it's a challenge getting to a place, to the island or to the land, and then it's exciting, but then sometimes you don't want it to stop. You want to keep sailing, but you got to go from one point to another. But it's and then sometimes if you've been on land for a while, you start dreaming going back on the ocean again. So it's it's that humbling time you have when you're out on the ocean. Yeah, it's really cool.
Stanley, when we were at Honolulu all those years ago, these are those guys. Okay. When we took the ava, we drank the ava, we had the ceremony. Mao Piailuk was saying, drink the ava. Mao is the father, Hokulea is the mother. You belong, all your land thoughts, all your land issues, you leave them behind. Because when you're on the canoe, you need everybody to be together so you can make this voyage. When we were all younger, for me, I was thinking, this is going to be an adventure, not knowing that years later, 40 plus years later, we're still doing this. So Sam Ka'ai from Maui was saying, when you get on Hokulea and you bite that hook, and that hook goes into your guts, you're stuck forever. You belong to that canoe. I was just looking at some of the names on the different parts of the canoe that we have given to people who have passed. And if you look on the port side stern, there's a bunch of people's names that have given. And you have names for these two individuals, Heiau, the step, and Teriki 2, the front step. When we were home after the sail, we were getting ready for the 1978 sail. So I went to the Bishop Museum, and in the Voyages of Moananuiākea, the first chief that found Kauai, he had two crew members from the same place. Maybe these were from the Tuamotus. So Heiau and Teriki 2 in Hawaiian became Heiau and Keli'iku, and these were noted when Moananuiākea sailed to Hawaii from Tahiti. But a lot of names on like Tu Moanatani. I think that's Wally. Ben, that's right. And then you have Tommy Holmes. You have Byron in the back. And then you have the female ki'i, and you have the male ki'i. But the names that you carry all your ancestors. And then you think to yourself, if all our ancestors are with us, Voyage is going to be hard, because nothing is easy for us. I think that's standard with all of us, all our Pacific people. You always gotta remember that those ancestors, they fought for everything. You gotta fight. And sometimes, modern, we get too much this. You gotta put them in the captain's box. Watch, take them off. You're gonna show you the old way. Now we got entrusted, because at one time we were the young guys. And when Mao gave us the stick, gives you the stick, you grab this other side. He says, that is the knowledge I give to you. Now it's your turn. So, besides all the canoe parts, besides all the preparation, besides all the protocol, there's a shit pile to know. And just not going to see, I'm going to go fishing, I'm going to be the fisherman, I'm going to be the steersman. No. You got to be multitasked to do everything. I hate cooking, though. I can't cook for shit. As we get older, shit, I'm 80 years old, and I'm still building a canoe for Kauai. Every island has their canoes. Like Tua has his canoes. Bruce, Pe'ea, Shorty, and it was all from the mother and Mao the father. And we used to think about Mao as, I used to think about Mao as Yoda. The guy can do magic, make magic. I was fortunate, Shorty, all of us who sailed with Mao, we were fortunate to have just that little piece of him showing us how to look. You could ask this ancestor, because he was an ancestor from the past. You can ask him what it's like. And so me, Shorty, Tua, Pe'ea, Bill, we're humble. That's all I got to say.
For another hour or two. It takes so much. It takes so much to do to prepare for these journeys. And the journey starts way before you even get close to the water. And you can't miss anything. You can't forget anything. You can't overlook anything, because if you do, you're putting the people who are with you at risk, and that's not something that is an option. So there are different people to do different things. It really does take everybody in the canoe to make it a success, and that teamwork starts well before you start the voyage. There's the people that are on it that have plans, and then there's the people who taught them how to be there, and there's the people who entrusted them to be gone away. That's our families. And at this point, for some reason, we need finances. And so there's the partnerships that you make, because you want to be able to partner with people who really believe in it. You can't just take finances from any old place. You need to be able to have good, strong partners that really believe in what you're doing, because you take them with you too. And you take their intentions. When anybody's giving, it needs to be in a good way. And so there's the people who are going to provide nourishment. And we should all know protocol, but there are definitely people who take the lead on protocol. And there's the folks who focus on safety before you leave, the ones who are navigating when you're out there. There's the people on land who are watching the whole time to make sure that every step of the way you're in a good place. Everybody on land should know exactly where you are when you're there. And then when you arrive, that the folks that are accepting you onto land know that you're coming, and that there's a plan for how to get back home. Yep.
Yeah, planning, that's the part that everybody wants to be a part of but doesn't want to be a part of. But like she said, it's so important to have those, just communication between the people that are in different places, and then knowing who's going to be there, and knowing, and not just knowing who's going to be there, but knowing who they are, knowing the skills, knowing their weaknesses, knowing their personalities, knowing who's trusts who, and who's the people. It's almost like you have to have the psychology of it, to sit in and watch the different people interacting with each other. And these ones are always going to put their tents side by side and make sure you leave room for them, and this one's always going to be a little bit late, but we always make sure that we catch up with them. And this one has to have coffee before they can even talk to anybody, and here you go, just have a cup of coffee. And those are the things that you really need to know and out on the journey, and those are the ways that you get to know people in that really intimate way when you're out on the water, and when you're sitting next to them, and this one is better on this side than they are on this side, and so switching them back and forth, and you can recognize when someone starts to get tired, and calling everybody to take a break, or to dig in deeper when you need to. And when you get caught in a situation that you may not have been prepared for, that's when things really come to light, of how prepared you are, and how serious those people are to be there. And the ones that are just there for a moment will be, put their paddles up, the ones that are taking more pictures than they are paddle strokes, or digging in their bags and trying to fiddle with things and trying to get comfortable every minute. And then when you get into a moment where you're pushing forward, and like in some of the stories, there's are we really moving forward, right? Are we still moving forward? We're paddling so hard, but are we moving forward? And then those are the moments where it's maybe better to go take a moment on the beach and just enjoy, the little stream, and wash our hair and our feet in the waterfall, or continue to press against the tide, and it's maybe more efficient to take a break and let people rest their soul and relax their bodies, and then wait for the tide to switch and press on, and then you get caught up in those moments, like she said, that are just precious when you get everything going in your favor, and you've got the tide moving with you, you've got the wind moving with you, you've got everyone feeling good, they've all had enough nourishment, they've all had enough sleep, they're not soaked with rain, or and everyone is moving as an efficient machine to go forward. And that's when, like she said, you get those moments of silence where you just hear the ocean, and you hear the water and the waves, and you feel the movement of every current. And then you have orcas come swim right beside you, and you have porpoises over here on this side, and the next thing you know, you're realizing that you're right in the middle of a National Geographic commercial, and they're hunting those porpoises, and the porpoises are trying to jump right in the canoe with you. Or one time we had a shark. Were you on board that time, right, when we had that shark come rub right up on the bottom? And like she said, talking about those ancestors that come forward and just show you every moment when they're with you, and you just needed that little bit of encouragement. And to somebody, they're terrified, and that's something they're like, I never wanted to have that experience. But to somebody else, that was the most precious moment of the journey, and that's something that they're always going to remember, that they're going to tell their children about, that they're going to encourage other people to come join because they had that moment of connection. And so those are all the different things that you can't plan for, and so you have to be able to be flexible and to be able to just let the current push you where you need to be, and just trust that that is where we all need to be at that moment. And despite all of the planning and despite all of the things, you have to be able to just be right here, right now, right?
Well, I know a big part for me for the journeys is like we let go of all of our creature comforts and we break ourselves down to our most basic beings. And through that, we're allowed to like get rid of our exterior, like shed our shell and become really vulnerable with the people around us. Like when we first start out, like every single journey, and it doesn't matter if I pulled with people before, like everybody's really shy, you're like, you don't want to burp in front of somebody, like you get really shy, but towards the end, like we are just one person, like let's go poop together because there might be a bear, like like there's just a different like level of vulnerability. Like our ego dies. Like we're out on the water sometimes for 6 days without a mirror, without a road, without a toilet, no sink. The water is just like for emergencies, for cooking. So like we literally, like we break ourselves down to our most basic beings, and through that I feel like we are more open and more receptive to like sending our prayers out, and like we like are communing with our other beings, with our ancestors, with whatever's on in the other side and the beyond. Like I feel like we are a part of it. And like the songs that come out, the stories that come out, like we really open ourselves up to like letting go, releasing. There's, people can like talk about their traumas that they've never talked about. People can, tell stories or jokes or things that they haven't thought about in a long time, because we have all of our modern distractions constantly bombarding us. Like we're worried about traffic, we're worried about washing the windows, we're worried about, what are we going to eat for dinner? Well, when you're on a canoe, we just eat what we got. We do what we do. We work as a team, and by the end, it's almost like a culture shock going back to a place where there's a shower and a road and a car. And then there's a huge lineup of people along the shore that want to give you a hug, but you haven't showered in a week. But yeah, that's a part of it. That's the experience, breaking ourselves down to build ourselves up, something better.
Yeah, there's definitely those moments of breathing the same air as somebody for months on end that you create a bond that lasts forever. Those friendships definitely carry on beyond the opportunity you get to be out on the water. Atakum Keone was here he's, you know, he didn't even know you guys are coming like this month, but he had planned for years. He'd been planning to come stay here in Juneau by us, and so it just so happened that it worked out to be the same time. But that's where we met, was on Leg 9 of the Worldwide Voyage in Aotearoa. And definitely made those friends and those families that just span the distance. Doesn't matter how far away you are, but as soon as you get back with them, you remember all those memories that you've had with each other. Best friends from Aotearoa too, from that experience.
It's always been a bit cold.
Yeah.
Shelter belt's gone away, so yeah. I mean, what was your question?
Oh, I was just talking about lifelong friends that you make being on these long journeys.
Not friends, but family.
Yeah, family.
Whānau. We all share the same, you know. It comes down to culture, and we all have the same. I got this thing that I always say that the waka and the language travel together. Yeah, that's what makes us so special. That's what gives us our identity. And the waka's that makes that connection. And that's important. And it gets back to our mokopuna, our kids. That's what we've got to teach. Yeah, you know, we sail some journeys, and we all sail some oceans, and through Moananuiākea, and then you never thought in that sooner or later when you're in at this time, and that you soon are going to, you know, like Uncle Tom said, you know, we become dinosaurs, but it's that for me and for us, it's just been amazing that we've made all our connections and shared those connections within each other, and that's how we're so close. Yeah, we're just one big family.
And then you get to a point where you have to rely on those kids that you taught, and you're like, oh man, did I teach them right?
It's that succession, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the key. Knowing that you've taught them, or you handed and like Miles said, you know, the knowledge and the things we learn, it's not ours. You know, it's not ours to keep, it's ours to pass. We're only the stepping stone to what we learn and stuff, and that's the key thing. And our young ones are educated now, and we all come from old school, and our young ones are educated, and they can take it to the next journey, you know.
Yeah. They'll have a whole different journey.
Yes, totally. I'm being proud. Yeah. For being Māori, I mean, cool thing about being proud of a Māori, I can walk in both wheels, yeah. I can walk in the Pākehā wheel, and I can walk in my wheel. No one can, you know.
But can you walk on water?
Give it a go, huh?
Only Mao can.
Only Mao can. The magic.
Because he's Yoda.
Yeah.
I was recalling a story. I was looking at two Moananuiākea. One of these sails, Dennis Chun, another crew member, sailing for the first time. In that compartment is Mao. So Dennis is sailing in the dark, one star in the hole, and his hand reaches up, grabs his leg. Dennis, you too high. So you push the paddle back down so the canoe will fall off the wind. Okay. And this is Mao, and this is his first time. Hand comes up again, grabs his leg. Dennis, you too low. Push the paddle back in so the canoe creeps back up. And then the hand reaches the leg again. And Dennis is going, oh, fuck. You know, it's like, now what? His hand reaches out, it's got the coconut cup. Dennis, here, drink. No, Mao, I'm not thirsty. No, you drink. Drinks it. It's full of Crown. And then Mao, before he goes back down, he goes, courage. Flap goes down, goes to sleep. Dennis said, I got it. Yeah, sometimes you need a little encouragement like that. And then if you, all of us who sail with Uncle Gil, windy like this. Uncle Gil is big and large, so you hide behind him to block the wind. And he's going, look at you. I said, why are you behind me? So you can block the wind. Because you shit. Not good.
Following in your footsteps.
Yeah.
Growing up, we grew up on the water, all the fishing boats around us. But my uncles would never let me on their boats. They wouldn't let me go fishing with them because it's good money, right? Going fishing, commercial fishing. But they would never let me because they said, babe, I'm not very nice when I'm out on the ocean and I don't want to be mean to you. But we're starting to see a lot of females come into to the practice, the navigation practice, and into the space of being captains and those kinds of things. Seeing that that face kind of showing up in the Hokulea and in voyaging with our canoes as well. Does that mean the men are getting nicer? Uncles aren't as mean anymore. Yeah.
That's why. On the back of the key, the female has the eyes. When you look at the male, he doesn't have eyes, but he's got the muscle. So you're thinking, the female has the eyes to see. She's the one that can see. The male, he's just there to support her. The question was brought up. You know, how come, well, now there's more females, but how come in the past, I think she was alluding in this text I got that Mao's society, Mao's culture is that he's on the ocean. Mao fishes and he feeds the land. Women own the land. Mao doesn't own. Mao has his men's house. That's where only the men can go. But that's pretty much when you marry into that woman from that land, you become part of their ohana. You become part of them. But Mao and his venue is out on the ocean. My job, feed the island, know all the medicine, help my people. And so how to navigate to go out there to go fish, to navigate to find your back home, that's what his purview is. And you know, we now, the question was asked, how come this, you know, the about the women being not allowed on the boats? I said, no. Well, then you look. You had to have women to go through the whole Pacific to have. Right. If you didn't have women, wow, we'd be in a bad state, man. Because there would be no genealogy, no, I like to say, no Rolodex card. Oh, you're from this guy. Let me see this card. Okay, you're from this guy, from that auntie. Okay. But yeah, we forget a lot of stuff. But we're like, me, I'm still learning. And it's honor to be with all you guys.
For us in Aotearoa, women play a major role, you know. There's a kōrero, or a thing that ko te tāne tū I ki mua, ko te wahine ki muri, ko te wahine hāpai te tāne. The man will stand, but who props the man up? The wahine. You know, so when it comes to like building waka, you know, when my Uncle Hector was alive, there was always tapu around building waka. Same with building wharenui or big meeting houses. The male does all that. The wahine is to the side. But the wahine plays a big role Especially when the canoe is built, who calls the canoe into the ocean? Is the wahine. To make that connection, the land and the ocean and the sea, the tongaroa. Same when the whare nui is open, the meeting house is open, a young wahine virgin, wahine girl will open the whare. No male. Because the male will do all the building of the canoe, of the whare and the canoe, but the women will make that connection. So women play a huge role here in Māori and now where I come from. And also there's some women that they taka or they stamp all over the men sometimes. Because sometimes the men, when the elders speak and the men speak, they don't speak the point that the wahine wants to. So some women will jump up and will say, oh, you know, the men say, hey, sit down, you know, you can't speak to this. Oh, no. The woman will turn around and say something so straight up. He goes, there's a kōrero. I puta mai I koe I ahau. You came from me. You know, you came, and they'll do a gesture to show that. You know, that tells them that, hey, you just hear me out, but this is how I'm going to make my point. So that's the lives of wahine, and having our wahine on our wakas are important. You know, today now I've got 4 nieces that are captains of their canoes. We have our wahine that are learning to be navigators and captains on our voyaging wakas in Aotearoa. So yeah, they play a big role. It's good. Yeah, it's really cool that they allow that. But that's important.
I see we're slowly starting to decolonize the way we're thinking, and it's the women who actually kept our culture alive here on these islands, on these coasts. It's the reason why we have a lot of our language and our history still. And looking back in our family history, when they say women aren't captains, well, tell my great-grandmother that she was a captain of her own canoe, and she traveled up and down these coasts. And that now I have my kid sister who's also a captain. She did a journey from Puna to Glacier Bay with the crew, and even here to Celebration. So I mean, to see us coming back to where things are supposed to be, that's important. The balance is starting to come back, and to see that we are getting over our egos sometimes. Some of them got to kick them in the rear end to say, hey, they know a little more than you do. Be quiet. So it's we tend to forget that who we come from, and that ego kind of have to kick our own selves in the butts and say, nah, let's listen. So I think this is an important thing that some of our men today need to see and hear. Even at our functions, it was the women who are behind us and saying, don't forget this individual, don't forget that individual, because this is what they brought to you. They're the ones that have our backs. But at the same time, they're the ones that have their hands behind us and say, supporting us. They're the reasons why we're as strong as we are today. So, sheesh.
Share a story. There's a place in the Bay of Plenty. It's called Whakatane. And there's a monument that have a wahine at the entrance of the river from Thing. And there's a story goes around why the name Whakatane. There was the tribe there, the men went to war, and they left the village, and they left the village on its own. And one of the canoes drifted out off the shore and went out. And then there were no men to paddle the canoe back, and only the wahine were there. The wahine weren't allowed to paddle the canoe. But then one of the wahine stood and did a karakia, and she asked at the time, e whakatane ia hau. make me a man, make me feel like that, so I can save our canoe. And that's how the thing. You know? So yeah, it's you talk about the history and back those days. Yeah, the women played a major role, especially when the men go fighting and stuff. And there was some places, times when a lot of warring tribes back in the Wahine and the Tamariki become the chiefs or the warriors of the village. Yeah, that's why we always make sure back in the days, and even we practice those traditions now, is that we never leave a village or never leave a village without a waka. There's always got to be one waka sitting there waiting at shore. You know, when the other wakas go out to do their thing or go fishing, one waka's always on, and that's the waka that's always on ready. So any warring tribe sees a waka on shore, they know, oh, they'll go. But the waka's not there, then they, you know. So those are those traditions or those things back in those practices back in those days. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we have similar, traditions, but even though, it may have been very specific traditional gender roles, there were also many, many stories that talk about people stepping outside of those roles when it was called for, right? And so, it's really interesting, how people get set in their ways so specifically and think that this is the way it has to be because this is how I know it. But there's always something happening where there's an exception to that. And so, we really have to, I think open our minds a little more to allowing those things to happen, because sometimes you just have to in order to let that culture survive, in order to let that information live forward. There's stories about Angoon, right? And when the village of Angoon was bombed and the people were out, there were no more canoes, right? Except for one. The guys had been out hunting and they came back in and everything was gone. And so that one canoe was all that was left. And that's the one that really carried them through. And so even though there were different plans and different families and different connections, they all came together and relied on that one. And stories from Kloak, the same thing, where normally there would be a different clan in this house and a different clan in this house. When it came down to it, there were Kanahari and there were Tekwedi that shared a house because they had to. Those are the moments that really carried us forward and carried our survival. So, that was one of the reasons why we named our group One People Canoe Society, because we're all one, trying to save that knowledge and trying to save our cultures and trying to bring it back. And yeah, the ideal is to get back to that point where we can have that balance and everyone can fill their roles that they're meant to have. But until we get to that point, we can't be choosy about who it is and say, no, you can't do that because you're too young, or you can't do that because you're too old, or you can't do that because of this or that or the other. We have to take the people that have a calling for it, that have a desire to do it, and that's really where we're at right now. Yeah. So, I'd love to meet your nieces too.
She's been here.
Good.
She paddles down. She comes up with a paddle.
Good.
The beanie down further down.
In Heidelberg, in Hik the Hunglai, every year in the summertime they have a big celebration for the 4th of July, and it's at the end of the day there's always a tug of war, and they always do a man versus women tug of war, and the men have never won.
Even Kloak, right? And the young bucks have never won.
Something that is a really good indicator that we're coming more and more back into our strength is that women have always been valued in a different way than colonized cultures value women. And it's always been shared with me that fundamentally the way that our Tlingit Tundatani is that we value men and women, period. And it's not the same in almost any ways that colonization is. And so it's really difficult to compare the two.
and to really step out of trying to compare the two and really just sink and lean into our Tlingit Tundatani and the way that we see the world and view the world, because our women have a different role. They have a really important role. It was always shared with me that in times of conflict, or in sometimes when men have to stand in front and men are speaking to each other for whatever reason, women are the ones that are turning their heads. They're the ones that are holding their back, like Pliish was saying. Women are the ones that are whispering in their ear and making decisions to help empower and support our men. And so it's not that one is less or more, and it is more that we are inclusive of each other and see value in one another and the strengths that each can bring. There are so many differences. My mom always used to share with me that simple things like in our culture, men are some of the best cooks that we have. Our men cook for us because they just do. That's just always how it is. And there's this Western idea of women slaving away in the kitchen and just being this idea of, I'm not even really sure, but we work together in those spaces. Yeah. We stand together in those spaces, and we provide safety and comfort for those who we care for. And it's not this idea of us versus them ever. It's more of coming together and sharing knowledge. And there's these ancient proverbs, these old ideals within our Tlingit culture that the healing capacity in women at some point are going to be what brings us back together to the earth. Women are the link to really help heal us deeply, because we've become so untangled. And the strands of thread that are together, they were never gone or lost, but there are just so few of them, and women are working to pull and weave them back together again and empower and strengthen our men to be able to have the capacity and the strength to lead in the ways that they need to, because so many of our men are brilliant and amazing, and so many of our men are struggling. And it is women's healing ability to be able to step forward and wrap our arms around and love and provide that compassion. So women's roles have always been valued, and so I think it's a natural thing for Indigenous people to continue to see more and more women. It's really showing that we're leaning into who we are more and more.
The funny thing is, it's a funny one. You know, when my mum was in the wharenui, in the meeting houses, the women are the old queer, the old ladies there. They're the chatterboxes. You know, when you get a manuhiri coming on to a marae and into the wharenui and they're exchanging kōrero speeches, the women, they never shut up. The old ladies, they never be quiet. They always ta 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 ta. And the men that sit on the paipai or the taumata, which is the place where the men speak, they never tell them to be quiet. You know. But if a man's talking well like me, they'll tell a man to be quiet. The women, they're chattering. And if you sometimes listen to the chatter, it's what they're listening to. Is they're listening to the kupu, the essence of what the men are talking about, and they can pick it up. If a male speaker speaking and someone's spoken, and that other guy gets up and speaks and repeats, they'll tell him, hey, just stop being a repetitive, stop speaking, yeah? And they'll whisper it. It's just constant badgering in the male's ear. And then if they don't like a speech, they'll tell the male, hey, your speech got no substance to it. What are you talking about? Sit down and shut up and don't get up again. And that's how the old women were like, you know, they're just like that all the time. You know, there's things like funny things that go, oh, you're no good as a speaker. Hey, go to the back of the marae, to the whare kai. Your job, go and wash the dishes. Go and pick up a tea towel. Because your kōrero or your talk is useless. And it's like a shame thing, you know, go and work in the kitchen, you know. But that's what the women were like, the old people, especially the old queer, the old ladies, they know that sort of stuff. They know how things should go. Yeah. They laid the foundation, yeah. That's I grew up growing up like that, you know, and how the young ones, you know, they always
when it comes to feeding, they always say, "Oh, feed our community first, feed our young ones first." And then they won't play up. They got a full belly. That's how they used to eat. They can run it by sitting down, without. Yeah, so that's the role.
You know, I got to we got to visit. Where was it? Where's Kioni? I think it was Whangarei in Aotearoa, and one of our friends, Paki, was telling us about how the river canoes, the river wakas, were helping to bring young men, you know, back from this place of where our young men were, or their young men were starting to veer into bad things, substance abuse and criminal activity and things. But the river waka, not the ocean kind, but the river kind there in Whangarei, was one of the avenues that they could tap into to help young men feel like a sense of purpose, or brought them into something that they could feel connected to, I guess. And he said it was like night and day for a shift in their community. Since we talked about ladies, now we're going to talk about men. And I know that Kitleish, you've had this conversation a lot about the role of men in our community, and our responsibility is you know, raising young men and having young men show up in good ways in our community.
Yeah. My wife and I, we have a dance group here in town, and we're going on 19 years as a dance group this year, and we work to uplift our nephews so that they understand that when we work together and understand what our healthy boundaries are as individuals, men, and to support the women in what we do, they become stronger in understanding how to uplift not just themselves, but to uplift the whole community. And that reward of seeing everybody working together and benefiting from what we get to do as a whole, it's exciting to see the younger generation understand how to decolonize the way we think, because for a long time I've heard women should be back there and can't talk, and that's damaging. I mean, when we think about it, we see it on TV a lot, where the women need to be saved. No, they don't. So you don't know if you get Haida Simsia women. In our history, we talking about the Kagwantan women of Yakdat, or of Haines Klekwan territory. The Moananuiākea is what they call them. They I know I'm supposed to talk about men, but the reason why I'm talking about it is because this is why we listen. The Moananuiākea, we're getting tired of the invasions in our communities, and the women stepped forward of the community and ended that violence that was going up and down our coast. So what I'm getting to is how our men wouldn't be where we are today without the women. We understand our history, and we become the leaders that we are because of the support and the guidance of our women. And for me, that I wouldn't be where I'm at without my wife. So as a leader in our community, that I don't ever forget who supported me, because that's important. That's the lineage of who I am.
Shorty, you've been associated with the basically from the beginning, eh? Have you seen
this kind of reawakening bring back something into your community and your young men, especially. You know, I feel like what I'm witnessing is our young men and our young ladies, once they connect with their culture, they seem to have a different way of showing up in our community.
Absolutely.
That's more positive.
Yeah, absolutely. When that happens, it's like it's kind of like the magic, yeah. You know, like when that becomes comes up to par, it's like yeah, there's a need to celebrate when that happens. Within matriarchal society, from Sarawal, women are treated as equals. Sometimes we have in Hawaii we have the couples where the women are kept out, whatever, and it just seems to be like they're forbidden to do this, forbidden to do that. But with Mau and Sarawal, the women are praised because they're actually there's that balance of power, the balance of responsibility. So one time I asked Mao if he had a decision to make, if he needed to spend time on like his daughter or his son, where would that be? And he would say that it was more important to teach his daughter, because his daughter is going to give birth. She's the one that's going to give birth to the new child. She's the one that will sing to the baby before it's born. She's the one who will start that cycle that they believe in, that you come to your predestined. You know all that stuff. So again, when we left for the first time, we said, okay, now we cut off from the land and we go to sea. And then the canoe is our mother, and I'm the father. So you see that balance. It's like there's like two huge roles that need to be completed because of responsibility, and so that's why it's equal. It's not like you can do this and you cannot, and the men can do this or not. It's so beautiful to see that, understand, and see how it works. So it's what a lesson it is for us, you know.
I love that Mao is thinking about that passage of knowledge, you know, and passage with his daughter. In our culture, we're matrilineal, so our clan systems fall through the mother's line. So my son is Yak Lannis, I'm Yak Janas, but his children will not be our clan. Yeah. My daughter's children will be our clan, though, and so it falls through the mother's line. So really important acknowledgement. I feel like there's a lot of similarities there.
We're so much more alike than we're different, right? Yeah, pretty awesome.
There was I know that a few of you have talked about the Va'a and the ancestors that exist here on the Va'a, but I was wondering if maybe somebody would be willing to do just a little quick walking tour with these camera guys and just walk around. Maybe it's your crew itself who's here, or you, Uncle Bruce.
I can do that. And regarding what, as far as the tour, just the parts, the names.
I think everyone's really curious as to what the different functionalities are, but also really I know that there's so many ancestors that are acknowledged and that carry with you, and I know that they would appreciate hearing about them too.
Yeah, you know, I just want to start by saying that, you know, a lot of the grounding of and the success of it all is the values, based on the values of what's expected, you know, just acceptable behavior and what's accepted, like how you treat each other, how you take care of yourself, and all of that, you know. I mean, it's without that, it doesn't only create chaos. I mean, spiritually, it starts a downward spiral of things that can also create some unforeseen and circumstances. So, like for instance, when we take the canoe apart, we put her on land, we take her apart, we're rebuilding her. You know, every aspect of people come down, you know, they've got to be in a good place. Their actions are expected. The acceptable behavior is that you're there to help, and you don't bring things from the outside in, like anger and, you know, all that kind of things. And because it actually, spiritually, it has repercussions, you know, and it's something, you know, we've heard the stories about it, we've had to learn that, and that's why, you know, your values and stuff, it's super important. So that's one of the things. And, you know, you're never in a perfect world, but that's why you have elders and people who have been around who can kind of smoothen the waters when it gets like that. And, you know, there's just every day is a lesson. But on this va'a, I don't know, we'll start from the basic things below us, which is the va'a itself, which is the hulls. And they're connected in va'a culture, even down to the racing canoes. They're connected by the cross pieces, which are yako. So in Hawaii, it's yako. In Tahiti, it's yato. In the Cook Islands and Aotearoa, it's kiato. The language is all the same, with just different inflections. You know, in Hawaii, it's va'a. In Tahiti and it's va'a. You start getting into the Cook Islands and it's vaka. Tahiti is waka. But it's all the same. You know, we're all the same. What we're standing on here is the pola. This platform between the two halls. In the hall, in the va'a itself, in the hall, there's a cross piece. It's called a vai. And vai is, it's kind of interesting. It's like the canoes here with the spreaders that spread the hulls and keep it intact. It's the same thing. And but the yako are tied into the vai and the va'a itself. This piece here up front is called the palikai or the palivai. It's just a breakwater, so when big waves come over, it helps to shed the water away so it doesn't come rolling through here and get into the halls. You know, the old days, it was open pretty much down there. And then the front part that goes out, the cover up front is called the manu on each hall. And then the pola that extends beyond the palikai is called the alelo. It's like a tongue out there. And then we have the mast step here, holding up the kia, which is the mast. This boom is called a pai pai. The sail is called a pea. All this kaula, or rope, this is all the standing rigging, which is basic function. All these lines is to hold that kia in place. And then all the lines you see on the kia, on the cleats. all these lines are all to raise this whole rig. The spar and the pipe with the pier comes down, so we can change the sails, repair the sails, put the sails down in storms. So these are the four, but once the rig is up, it's set, it's secured down here, it's secure aloft. All the lines you see here is all dedicated to opening the sails so we can get on the move, or closing the sails if we have to stop. Our heliuma over here, the anchor goes down through the front here, and so there's a basic bit of functionality that's evolved over the years. Initially, we did not have like that big anchor cleat up front, and we'd anchor off of the sides, and it was just the best practice at the time. And we just kind of accepted it and just kept going. But, you know, I mean, as the voyages got more, as it got more real, like I know I talked about, we're going to be going 43,000 miles, 300 ports, and all of this. I mean, you're in and out, and you never know if you're going to have to anchor, you're going to come to a mooring buoy like we did over there in Hokulea, or what have you. But you've got to have the capacity to try and make it easier. So that a lot of these things you've seen, there's all the lashing here. The wonderful thing is that so much of this is ancestral, like the lashing. If you folks just take a time just to kind of feel the lashings and how hard it is, you know, the people who came down to work on it for 6 months, like I know I said, is like every pull is 6 inches of line and you wrap it. The next pull is 6 inches of line and you're wrapping it. That's 6 miles over 6 months of people doing all this. I don't know, you know, how many thousands of man hours it was, but it's 6 hours of joy. People come and they're ready to do it and they work together, and it's just like listening to you guys in your canoes when you're paddling, you know, and whoo, you know, and all that. It's just, they all come down, they grab their hooky stick and they're pulling together, and that's what's put all of this love and mana into the va'a. All of these boxes have these little ones here have like the extra propane and different things. You can never have enough storage. This is our safety box with all the safety equipment in there. This box here is like our sail lockers. So you have all the extra sails, the sail repair kit and things like that you may need to make some changes. That box there is the electrical box with all of the switches for your lights and your communications, and the incoming power from the solar panels goes through there. The 2 boxes where on this one are 2 ampere below are the batteries, and so it charges the batteries. In turn, the batteries power up the lights and communications and everything else. Right behind this aft mast, there's a galley. It's a 2-burner propane stove, you know, make hot water, cook food, all of that. And right behind that is a box for all the pots and pans and utensils and everything else that you're going to do to cooking and for eating and all of that. This is these are the bunks down below here. And this is like the sleeping quarters, and yeah, it's kind of, anyway. This is one of the bunks. There's 5 on each side. And that's why, you know, we'll take 10. We used to take 12. The very first voyage, what do you guys have, 17?
Yeah, 17.
And 17 crew members. That was a lot of people. But, you know, I mean, it was so exciting. It was so new. You know, I mean, let's just do this, you know, back then in 76. And I just got to say, you know, going back to that earlier question that Barbara said, you know, how do you know if your voyage is a success? And I've always felt that because it prompts a bigger question and a bigger vision that you got to go after. So this VAW was built for one voyage in 76. It was just built to gather data, document it as a challenge to a theory that was out there, that was put out there basically by Norwegian Thor Heyerdahl. He did a raft journey from Peru to into Polynesia, and he felt that was a success, and it proved his theory that migrations came from the east and it moved west because all the winds and the currents flowed that way. And there was a real invalidation of native intelligence and ability and skill. But the basic knowledge was that everything came from the west and it came east, and it's based on linguistics, it's based on all the plants. All plants, food, medicine, shelter building, everything that is in the Central Pacific where we're from, all came from the east. The coconut is from Southeast Asia, the noni plant is from India, challah, which is for building, is all from like Australia and all that area. The breadfruit, the ulu, which is central to food, is from Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. The mica, the banana, is from Africa, and so on and so forth. The Milo is from Madagascar. All that stuff came from the west and flowed east with this culture that kept moving. The only plant that came from the east was the uara, the kuara, the sweet potato. And that's because a canoe went there and brought it back. And that's how it spread so vast throughout the thing. But anyway, that's why the canoe was built. But when this canoe came home, you know, on all the islands and all the communities, you know, Shorty is on that voyage, John, and so many others. When we sat around talking like this, you know, all us guys who really was just kind of like sitting there, just going, oh, holy moly. You know, I mean, they're so animated about everything that they brought home. And that was part of the success, because that's what moved the canoe into the next voyage and into the next voyage. And here we are, you know, almost 50 years later in your land up here, and talking about this. But anyway, yeah, you know, this is out here is a catwalk. You know, John and I and many others are on this canoe. This plaque up here is dedicated to Eddie Aikau, who, you know, was the only crew member ever lost at sea. And it was because of 1978 when we had left in a gale. And it just proved to not be like, you know, one of our, you know, better decisions over the years. But, you know, I mean, be that as it may, it's always a learning journey. You know, it's always kind of pressing forward, you know, and taking those risks. And as we were upside down in the Karibi Channel, we were standing on the bottom of this catwalk. But the catwalk actually helps to, you know, deflect swells and all of that. This rail here And it keeps going all the way around, and you see marks on there. You see like red marks and green marks. This is a canoe compass. And this is one of the things that Mao helped develop. It's on their canoe, it's a canoe compass. So it's the area in the corners where Byron's name is there. And the other corner is where the navigators set up at the corner of the compass. And they just need to, they can sight swells, they can sight celestial bodies like the moon, the sun, the stars, the planets. And around you, all around you, 360 degrees on the horizon is your star compass. And where those bodies, celestial bodies rise, where those swells come out of, across, you know, from the horizon, they pass under you and they keep going that way. You use these marks on the compass, the navigator does, to maintain, like a regular compass, you know, when you're at sea and you're going down the coast, you know, you want to go of a heading of, you know, southeast. So you're looking at like on the compass, 135, you know. You just leave it on 135 and you steer. You know, nowadays it's really wonderful, right? We've got our autopilot put on 135 and you just got to sit there and watch it go. Well, the navigator is the guy who sits there and maintains that. And he's maintaining just talk about navigation a bit. You know, navigator is on watch 24 hours a day, watching every cloud train that goes by, every changes in the cloud patterns, all the changes on the sea state, you know, the skin of the ocean is telling him what's going on. You know, it's confirming what's going on and what he's looking aloft. The swells are also confirming what he's looking at. And so they're making all those they're just making all those decisions and constantly adjusting. And, you know, it's a world that Mao introduced to us, you know, at a point where in 1975, when the canoe was launched, we had no world, we had no body of knowledge. And just like, you know, Tua and Pia, Stanley and all of us, you know, realized that we had the stories, but there was no Ike, there was no knowledge, there was no masters there to get on board with us and say, okay, this is what we're going to look at. And so that's where Mao, you know, came in and he helped with that. And so anyway, so it was really quite the journey. You know, you have the 3 paddles in the back for steering. The center one, Hoi Uli, is just your general paddle, and you know, you try not to bring it too far off center and put all these stresses on it, because if you do, it's way too much stress. You balance the sails according to the wind, and your steering back there should be, if you do it really nicely and balanced, it should be very tender, you know, really easy. The side sweeps here on the side. This hall is the wahine hall, the woman, the female hall. As you can see, the female ki'i. This is called the ama. This hall is the male hall, the kane hall. It's called akea. So this hoi is hoi ama. Okay, that hoi there, that steering paddle is hoi akea. They're used in big wind. They're used in turning in emergencies. They're used in downwind surfing. They're very positive. It's like when we surf on our canoes in the channels between the islands. The steersmen, you watch the good steersmen, you know, they'll paddle, and when the wave lifts up the hull and wants to carry it away, which is going to send you off course, they just poke And they put that paddle right next to the hull, and the hull goes like this. As the waves go by, you take it out, you paddle in again. Next hull, next swell comes, put it in. You watch the good steersmen, it's just like real poetry in motion. You know, they're not fighting. The canoe doesn't go all over the place, you know. It's straight. As soon as they know how it's going to react, they'll put it in, they'll go straight, they'll take it out, they keep straight. But you cannot, when the hull is like that and the force of the wave is, you can't reach out here and try and hold it. It's just too much force. When you're surfing in Waikiki, when they have races, you watch the Beach Boys at Waikiki, they put that paddle in, it's just... So this paddle was developed by a Beach Boy. His name was Duki Kuahulu, who was part of the first crew with Shorty. And prior to that, they had the hoi uli, and they had paddles that they used to use on the sides in the back. And very dangerous. They used to kick around and people would get hit. You know, a few people got knocked out. And plus, you cannot, you imagine, huh? You're going like, it's a 25, 30 day journey. And if you're going to steer like that, that means somebody's got to hold that paddle down there 24 hours a day. It's not only exhausting, I mean, it's so dangerous.
One arm.
But Dookie, in his wisdom as a Beach Boy, he goes, hey, so put these in, and we've had them ever since. I mean, it's just it's been wonderful. I just want to say, you know, I mean, with all that, you know, all these captains that you see on board have all been aboard this Va'a in a storm. I mean, in the most frightening conditions. But it takes getting through those to realize that you can get through that. We don't like to sail in a storm, but you know how you're 1,000 miles from sea. If the storm comes, you just carry on, and you can teach the young ones, you know, why you can be calm, and use all that knowledge and stuff, and how to sail and whatever to get through it, which is such a blessing. I mean, you know, that kind of adversity and such is our best teacher. All of the names you see all over the canoe, there's just part of the mo'okuauhau, the genealogy, the whakapapa of this Va'a, and there's many. There's so many from different places. And then our other canoe that we have, Hokulea, which was from Aotearoa. A lot of the names on that Va'a are tied into our connection to Aotearoa. So the hoi uli on this paddle is Kawai Nui for Herb Kane. This is very Hawaii centric, as you know, we moved out of Hawaii. The other canoe is a mixture of that. It's very Aotearoa centric. Like the center sweep is Hekinuku Mai, named in honor of you know, one of our elders and papas over there, Hector Busby. And then the front mast is Natoro Irangi, was named by Sir Tumu Te Heuheu, who helped us, came down and helped bless the voyage and get us moving. Our cleat up front, this cleat is called Honolua, because Honolua was like John said in 76, was the first departure point. So it's kind of an anchor point for the whole genealogy of all the voyages. Well, the cleat on Hokulea is Waitangi, because Waitangi is our anchor point, our center there. One of the yako in back is called named Tautita, after a village in Tahiti, and all these names and all that you see, there's a story behind it, but that's all tied to family, how the canoe has traveled, and the names. We have 2 plaques on the back with names of so many people that have been a part of this longer journey of 48 years that have passed on. And the names represent all of that aloha and mana from around the world through all the voyages. So, and even from places up here. So like from up here in this Alaskan waters, on that plaque back there is Judson Brown, Ernie Hillman, Byron Malott, and anyway, from all the different things. But they're aboard with us. They're always aboard with us. They're just guiding us with their knowledge, their love, their wisdom, and that's what it's taken to get us this far. Yeah. I mean, we just kind of are on board pulling lines, you know. But, you know, the real glue was all of that knowledge and that wisdom and that love and stuff. And that strength, you know. Get out there, you guys. You know, carry on. So, I don't know, I mean, that's kind of that.
Especially those who can't physically make their way down here. We only have about 10 minutes left, if it's okay. I'm going to go around and just do last words from everybody. Does that work, Errol? Maybe we'll start with you, since you were...
I was just going to ask a question.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask about the shape of the sails. It's a shape that isn't familiar, I think, to many people up here. In you mentioned the Hokulea, which has a more different shaped sail. And so can you talk about the difference between the two?
Yeah, Hokulea, it's a little different. The gang who built it was a traditional boatyard. So, yeah, they had a sail that had kind of a look of this kind of rig. But when you go to sea and you sail, this canoe can be pretty powerful and pretty fast. In fact, now, since the last dry dock, we took 3,000 pounds of weight off. And that was because so much of the building materials that they'd use, like 3/4 inch plywood and half, it was just totally soaked, you know, just totally soaked and heavy. So we replaced it with foam core, which is lighter and stronger actually. But it made her even more nimble and faster, which she is now, which is pretty neat. And better be able to balance. But the sail shape on this one, like Shorty has said, you know, we had the artist drawing from Weber, who was an artist on Captain Cook's Voyage, that showed that basic shape. There was a petroglyph, actually, that they took the shape out of. But we kind of maintained the basic look. But down in the South Pacific, on these South Pacific islands, Tomako and the reef in Santa Cruz Islands, which are Polynesian, they still build everything traditionally. The canoes, they make the lauhala sails, everything is tradition. They have that basic, that same look.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is very Polynesian, you know, to a large degree.
So exciting. Thank you.
They're really beautiful.
Incredible. It's just so fascinating to just note the similarities and the differences and just the possibilities of where we can go from, you know, when I was in school, I went to college in Hawaii when the Hokulea was being built. And so I've really followed it this whole time. And just to be here and be part of this and to be sitting next to you guys is, you know, is just really thrilling. And I thank you so much for bringing this all here. And, you know, at the time I didn't really know a whole lot about my Tlingit culture, and the Hawaii Aloha was just so welcome and open and sharing to me, and gifting me with their knowledge and culture, and I didn't have anything to reciprocate, and so that really drove me to come back home and ask more deeper questions and say, well, what about this and what about this, and to really, you know, I was always had this connection with the water, but you know, it really pushed me to do more, and so I really appreciate that. And it's really, like Gianna said, it's really, you know, given me a direction to go with it. And in starting our One People New Society, I would really love to do, you know, to model more of what we do after what you guys have done. And this is just gives me so much hope and just excitement that we see it, but it's getting everyone else in the region this just incredible jolt of excitement and interest in more of what we've been doing for so long, and just really bringing up the whole region. So this whole journey is just incredible. I appreciate all of you. Nishish.
Want to go this way or that way? This way. Final comments? Oh. It's been a real honor to be sharing space with you guys. All of you who have spent so much time on the water and spent time with your ancestors and really carry a deep love for this type of living. And just feeling your energy, it makes sense to me. Sometimes we can sit in spaces with people and everybody's wearing a suit of sort, and I don't really know how to be in those environments. And I do really feel like I'm sitting with uncles and aunties and people who are stewards of our culture and our language and our ways of life. I'm grateful for this time that we're being able to spend together to remember how much we're alike, so that we can remember how similar we are. I think something we've really had an opportunity to reflect on during the pandemic is how much we need each other. And having the opportunity for this as we're coming out of the pandemic has been so healing for our communities. And thank you all for spending time and allowing us on your ba'a and sharing your knowledge that's so important to all of us. And uplifting the inherent knowledge that exists in each individual community by going to those places and uplifting the people who live there, and bringing people from Aotearoa, from Hawaii, and from our Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian communities together. And even just have this conversation today, I think really centers us in so many of the protocols that are similar and different, the way that we uplift people in our community, and I really enjoyed all of the time and effort that you put into thinking of how to respond to each other, and respecting the time that each person put into being here today. Chish.
Yeah. Again, just echoing what has been said already. I mean, it's a real honor to be here. But you know, there's a lot of people out there who are following this voyage, and they're all asking the question, why Alaska first? And you know, when the canoe got here, and this Bruce and the other crew members sailed it around to the different communities. Yes, we have a history between the Polynesian Voyaging Society and Alaska, between Hawaii and Alaska, between Polynesia and Alaska. But we know now, by bringing this canoe here, to start off this 4-year voyage, it had to be here. Because of your humility, because of your humbleness of you, and because of your connection to your ancestors, it's exactly the same way we are. So it helps us, it helps strengthen us for the start of this voyage as we go around the world, around the Pacific. Which brings a lot of honor to you, and our connection with you brings a lot of honor to us. Thank you.
yeah, just like support and support the kōrero, the talk, the sharing of, you know, especially being on this canoe, on Hokulea and what it's done. And just an honour to be here, yeah. Thinking about my uncle, Hector Busby. Hector, you know, he travelled up here meeting Byron a lot, and was here when the logs of Hawaii law were cut. You know, when he passed, people said to me, you know, you got big shoes to fill. And I said, no one can fill any those ones that have gone their shoes. You got to walk your own, you know, and walk your own, or fill your own shoes. So for me, being here is an honour. Be here is to honour those ones that are not around, those ones that started that whole renaissance of voyaging through the Pacific, making those connections. It's like Tua said, you know, Hokulea is like the needle and the thread, sewing the lei. But for me, Hokulea is the one that built the bridges. Main one is built the bridge from the past, from our ancestors to the present, and it'll build a bridge too into the future. And that's what the canoes, the waka's done. And that to me is that's being here today and my first time here, and it's just been an amazing start of this beautiful beginning of this kaupapa. And starting here is to me it's the place to start the starting on the voyage. Yeah, it's important, and just being here and sharing and talking about my culture, and our culture really. We're all one people now. We're all part of the Pacific. We're not defined by lines anymore. We're one big circle. That was repeated by Nainoa. You know, Mao said it too. The white man put the line in. We're all in the same. We're in the same big. Our home is our ocean, the Moananuiākea. So yeah, so good. So thank you for allowing this opportunity. Ngā mihi. Kia ora.
My turn. Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Since pandemic that we've never had the opportunity to actually see each other, to have the time, to spend the time with all the brothers and our mid-tours that started, and to be on Hoku over here is an honor. To be among you fellas and listen to the stories and experience and for me to know that there's no difference at all. It just shows that we are connected. Doesn't matter where we are, through our culture and through our traditions. Really appreciated that the opportunity that's been given. I'm gonna take it and keep it and share it to the young ones that I'm gonna go home. So again, thank you so much for everything.
You've always been in our hearts and minds, but for finally we get to meet you. You can see that this canoe is made out of working together, and it comes from love and aloha, and the pride that we have in our indigenous people around the world. And to be here is what an experience. Thank you very much. This is a wild place. You know, there's birds, there's eagles flying over it. We're blowing our minds with what's here that's alive and well. Your forests are so healthy. It provides so much more than we can explain. And a lot of our forests in Hawaii been dismantled. It's not there anymore. So to come here and always thought about you. supposed to be here. It's such a privilege to meet some of the elders and everybody that contributes to your part of this world. Keep everything up to par. So thank you very much.
Why don't you say something?
I'm late, so I don't even know what this is about.
We're ending. That's what.
Introduction.
Oh.
And then how you feel about being here.
Okay. Hello. My name is Billy Richards. I first boarded this canoe in summer of 1975. I was 27 years old at the time, so you guys can do the math and everything. It's been a while. And I've been fortunate enough to be selected to travel on a number of voyages of Hokulea. So I'm glad to be here too. It adds to the canoe being here adds to the mana of the canoe. Every place we go, people touch the canoe. The lands touch the canoe, the waters touch the canoe. It adds mana to this vessel. And this vessel has had 47 years of additional mana added. And I think now it doesn't just absorb mana. I think it pushes it out. There's enough mana, especially since we've gone around the world, from places that, Max and I were fortunate enough to sail to Africa. When I first sailed on Hokulea in 1976 to Tahiti on this first voyage, I never dreamed I'd be sailing to Africa much years later and things. But in doing so, like I said, we've met a number of people. We've held hands with people from around the world. The canoe, has touched the waters of the people, of the waters around the world. And we've been fortunate because we've been accepted everywhere we've gone and everything. We've also asked permission every time we've gone, and I think the canoe is in Florida. I was not on that leg, but from what I understand, they asked we have a land crew also that travels ahead of the canoe. And so the land crew is next to, I think there were Seminole Indians. And one of the elders said, well, what are they waiting for? And she responded, they're waiting for permission to land. And his response was, nobody's ever asked before. So I think what we try to share with the world is the love we have for our canoe, for our culture, our lands, and each other. And in doing so, I think the Aloha spirit, what we call the Aloha spirit, connects us greatly with everyone we come into contact with. And this is how we get there. My first kuleana when I came aboard the canoe was that front mast, the front sail. We call it la ihu. La is sail, one of the words for sail. Ihu's nose, that's for sail, So that was my first kuleana and everything. And that's kind of where I like to be. It's my favorite spot and everything. My first night aboard the canoe, I slept in the net on just forward of the mast, And as you notice too, there are names on the canoe, on the mast step. That mast step is called Tiariki 2. This is called Heiau. The names are from the first island we landed at on our voyage to Tahiti in the very first voyage. It's called Motaiva. And the chief came aboard. His name was Tofa. The chief came aboard, he said, I'd like to name your canoe. And I told him, it already has a name. And so I said, what about the mast? So he named that Teariki 2 and Heiau. Those are the two navigators that found their island and everything. And so there's a lot of history here. everything here that has a name on it, there's a reason why and everything. And like I said, the canoe has got a lot of mana, and it's expressing mana now to all of you. So thank you for having us. Much appreciated. Stefano. Aloha.
Sheesh.
Okay. Very good.
I gotta say, I'm very speechless right now. Everything I heard is awesome. And I'd like to say thank you very much for coming in and giving me the opportunity to come aboard and share with you all and listen to you all talk. I want to thank you very much. I'm going to cut mine short.
Kunishtihan, Stugahati, Ya Wushkanakudi Yaki, Akan Kiente Kina Haida, Jahawa, Jahawa, Achishkas, Yastakat Hawaiian, Moananuiākea, Kan Kian, Maori, Kiora. Stuka hatte te ya kuklauk ya hakusti hayagu kusti ya katuwusha kwa khi ya hakusti yi yu katangi ya yiki ya nak yakhati hakusti niku City. Wanted to say thank you to my in-laws, the Haida, my grandfather's people who are Hawaiian, and to our relatives who are Maori. For all of you folks, Akani, Kanakadi, for taking the time to breathe life into something that we've almost lost. This is medicine that our way of life has been looking for. This, we can now hold our heads up high as we see this thread, as Uncle was saying, this thread being woven into our way of life that we've been missing. This path that our ancestors used to take, and some relatives would call the grease trail. This is something that our kids and even folks my generation, maybe even a couple years older, have been missing. And we're seeing the pride in who we are and where we come from come back again. We're no longer walking with our heads down low because we can see that we're not grounded by what we are told what we cannot do. We're finding the strength to take back what is ours. And Sheesh, Mahalo, Tahoa. Thank you all.
Just in closing, I just want to thank everybody that is here and everybody that has contributed to the canoeing lifestyle and the canoeing culture. Without the canoe, without the ocean, I would not be who I am today. I would not be where I am today. I probably wouldn't even still be with us. I know that the self-worth that I feel is something that the millionaires can only dream about. And they're so poor, all they have is money, you know? And I hope everybody can catch the canoeing fever. I hope this just reignites our whole passion and everybody is just called to their purpose, and that everybody can feel the value and worth that I feel when I'm on a canoe journey. Hawa.
Oh, wow.
I just want to say, you guys are the bomb. And all of us from Hawaii, from the Cook Islands, from New Zealand, we're touched with to be able to do this, and our task on this new adventure is great. We have to show with respect, with humility, as we make the circle of life, to try to open all those old stories, open up what we had originally. And then I think to myself, what we read in our history books, how dare we get the wrong history. These books are wrong. Kind of pissed me off. But no get nuha, no get angry. Smile, keep going. Because we know with Akua, this canoe, we're on the right path. It's the other guys that don't see it. And that's why we go, so people can see it with aloha. And again, thank you for letting me be part of this. Thank you.
Just say again, Jaha'a, Atlan Gunath Chish, Mahalo, Chinan, and Doikshin. Thank you for spending this morning with us. I know it got chilly, so hopefully we're able to stay warm with some hot beverages. But you know, in '95 when you folks came, you lit something within us, and it stayed lit for a very long time. It had our people questioning the colonized system that we were a part of, and the way and the understanding of the world that we had been told was the only way to see the world. And now that you're here again, it always helps us to be reminded of and blow the flames so that they spark up again in our communities and within our people, and not just here in Southeast Alaska, but all across the state. You know, there's 23 distinct languages that exist here, and 23 different nations of people that exist here just within this one state. And as we're broadcasting statewide right now, we've also had numerous other communities send us videos of putting canoes in the water for the first time in 100 years, of reinvigorating the artwork of the Badarka and the indigenous engineering and brilliance of our people. And you're helping us to be reminded of that by lighting that spark and by putting oxygen into it so that it flames up. And so thank you again for allowing us to spend this morning with you and this time with you, and for bringing Hokulea here to us to help continue to remind us. As you say, you know, it started here, and we get the honor of having you here with us and having her here in our homeland. So Hawa, Gunashchish, Chinan, Mahalo.